Happy Monday, everybody, and it's another Mike was right Monday. Mike was right Monday, and so many good stories. Anthony Blinken gave a long interview denying that anybody would care about the Gaza genocide, and it wouldn't be his legacy. Joe Biden gave a bunch of medals of freedom to the most evil people in the world. The liberals are collapsing in Canada. 4th anniversary of January 6th. And I gotta tell you, chat, I knew this is what would happen. And the Canadian government is collapsing as liberalism fails to the far and alt-right once again. And like, honestly, I think it's very straightforward to say that we know why the Canadian government is falling. It's very simple. And the answer is, and it's quite easy to understand why. Housing. It's impossible to be a productive Canadian and afford a place to live. I think what's really fascinating about the housing debate is how many liberals kind of just deny it. Like, if people were starving to death, because food was too expensive, it would probably be hard to deny. But because people would die slowly from exposure, because people slowly get their wallets drained by housing, there's this like denial of the political effects of housing, which are not quite as strong, but certainly it's a slow boil. And the thing about housing as an issue for the neoliberal extremist center is their policies cannot deliver housing. They just can't. And if you look at America and Canada, since the rise of neoliberal politics, they physically cannot provide housing because chat, and this is something that a lot of people don't understand about housing is a monopoly. Every building is a monopoly. Every building sits on a non-fungible piece of land, and there is no perfect substitute. And so this creates tremendous opportunity for profiteering. It creates tremendous opportunity to extract rents, obviously. And unless the government is highly involved in managing the provision of housing, they just don't provide it for the bottom. It's just not provided for the bottom. Do you think that is a good thing? No, of course I think it's terrible. I hate capitalism. Capitalism is a dysfunctional system. Verticality is unironically the perfect substitute for going wide. Well, here's the thing. I'm talking about substitution in the economic sense, where you exchange one thing for another, alternative thing. There is a limit of the amount of units that can be produced of a certain style in a certain place. And that is an irretrievable fact about reality. And I'll give you an example of Los Angeles, California. Los Angeles, California should have the cheapest housing in the world, but it doesn't. Why is that? Because they absolutely refuse to build medium density shit. They absolutely refuse to provide high quality social and public housing, high quality social care, high quality public transport. And this reality has, and Canada has the same problem that America does. Largely, it's the very similar society. And Justin Trudeau's failure to manage that, Justin Trudeau's kind of like irrational faith in the market. And I want you to understand, chat, that this is a revelation that neoliberalism does not work. Why do I say that? Because Canada brought in millions of immigrants. And in and of itself, that is a good thing. However, and this is the most important thing you need to hear today, is that if a society does not have the system set in place to build up the necessities of life, the new immigrants are going to drive up the price of necessities, including housing. They're going to, if the social services and healthcare are not expanded, they're going to suck it up. And it's not because the immigrants are not getting their fair share. It's not because the immigrants are lazy. It's just there is a capacity. And if the government is not managing that capacity by expanding it, that means raising the amount of money going into it faster than inflation, it's not going to be able to cope with the new demand. And that's exactly what you've seen in Canada. That's exactly what you've seen in Canada. Housing prices have absolutely exploded because why? More people are demanding it, and housing is a necessity. So people have a inelastic demand for it. So you know what happens? You stop spending in other areas of your life and you put more and more toward rent. You have to have a place to live. It is so they have got you by the balls. Liberal members of parliament are already blaming Trudeau for being too left-wing, so they won't learn anything. Well, that's exactly why we're okay. So let's be honest to God true about what's going on right now. Humanity is on the brink of extinction. I'm not saying that to be a dramatic person. The Western world is schizophrenic. The Western world has lost their minds. And you can see that in Europe, it's already happening. Like the Western world in Europe is in the decline, outright decline, even from their own economic capitalist metrics. They're on the decline. The United States, as the world hegemon, has managed to at least nominally keep line going up. But the amount of divorce from reality is absolutely insane. And I don't know if you guys have been noticing, the Democratic Party is just the same as the center left in the world has also gone insane as well. The so-called elites have gone insane in America. And a lot of people talk about populism or anti-establishmentism as a bad thing. And I say of it, I speak of it like this. I am anti-establishment when the establishment is bad. If the establishment is achieving good things for the people, I would be pro-establishment. I am not populist for populist's sake. I'm populist because I evaluate what the elites are doing today, and the elites are harming us. My values are about the working class. My values are about building a sustainable fucking society, both ecologically and economically. That is about continuing to improve the standard of living of every human being on the planet, and we're failing based on that. So I reject the people that are in charge. That's the anti-establishment that I'm talking about. Now, I've heard people say like, well, if you're anti-establishment and then you win, what then? Then you become the establishment. Exactly. And then I would be pro-establishment because we would be promoting the welfare of the people. One of the things I try to tell people is like when I look at like Barack Obama and the right wing of the Labor Party, and they're using every trick in the book to suppress the left. That's not fair. You're absolutely right. It's not fair. Bernie Sanders was blocked because they rigged the shit to make it impossible for him to win. They did everything they could to tell people if Bernie Sanders wins, the Democratic Party is going to melt down, and we're going to make sure it melts down, and we're going to blow it up, and we'll lose to Trump. And so people were like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I like Bernie, but I don't know if we can handle Trump winning again. And so they went with the safe choice, Joe Biden. And guess what? They lost to Trump anyway. But I want you to understand something, and I want you all on the left. This is the type of left I want you to understand. If we get into power, we're going to do it harder than they did it. Okay? I ask... That's what you need to understand. And if you're not ready to suppress the center harder than they suppressed us, then you're not mature yet politically. And that is the type of left we need. We need a left that is unabashedly anti-liberal, because the liberal stink will destroy us and usher in true fascism. Now, most people don't know what liberal means. And most people... And because of course they don't, they're not ideological. I don't give a shit about regular people in this conversation we're having right now. 90+%. There is one insight about political science that you need to know. It's the most important insight of political science, which is that regular people are not ideological. There isn't 40% of the country are ideological liberals. That is not the case. Okay, stop thinking shit like that. That's not true. All right. Let's Justin Trudeau and the Canadian government under the Liberals is collapsing. Here we go. I don't know if you saw this. Austria to get first far right government since World War II. Yeah. And the reason why that is, chat, is because that is the pro-Russian party. And Austrians don't want to be involved in NATO. Austrians don't want to fight Russia. So congratulations, you made it unacceptable to be pro-Russia, or at least like pro-diplomacy. Not even pro-Russia. They're pro-diplomacy with Russia. And you made the far right the party of diplomacy. Congratulations, idiots. Congratulations, idiots. Get a load of this quote from the CTV article. Talking to liberal MPs, almost all the MPs globally spoke to believe that Trudeau has moved the party too far to the left, and the shift has played a key role in the decline of liberals. In what way is Trudeau made the party left? And I think what they're really talking about is that there was an immigration surge. And here's the thing. I want you to understand something, Chad. I'm not like other commentators on the left who are just going to tell you baby talk. All right? If you want to hear baby talk, go to literally anyone else. All right? I'm going to talk to you about cold, hard facts and reality. There is only so much capacity for people within a society at a certain point in time, right? There's only so many hospital beds. There's only so many classroom seats. There's only so many housing units that are habitable within a society in a certain time frame. It doesn't mean that immigrants are to blame when a society runs out of that capacity. It's just a fact of life. So if you're in government and you have more human beings flowing into your society than you have capacity to support them, then your crisis is that you need to build the capacity. And the problem with neoliberals is that they believe the market will do it magically. And what has been definitively determined is that it won't. So if you want to have immigration flowing into this country, you need to have government action to be building up capacity. And who should get the new capacity first? If I build a new apartment building, who should be moving in? Members of the community that have been there the longest. That is how it should go. It's not very a seniority system. It's not that. That doesn't mean we don't provide for immigrants. Of course we provide for immigrants. But this is one of the other things, is the idea that you say, hey, we need to manage our society so that our capacities are greater than the number of human beings within the society. And somebody says, oh, you're being racist. You're being a nationalist. That's the type of shit that has cooked our brains. That is the rad lib, unmaterialist, dumbass shit that has killed the so-called center left. It's not racist to want to have housing that's enough in your society so you don't have a million fucking people out on the streets, which is, by the way, a massive undercount. What's wrong with being a nationalist? Because nations are fake. Nations don't exist. They're constructs.
It's interesting the way you frame that, because that's also the way that I frame it. I say that right-wing populism is the herpes of capitalism. that when capitalism as a system weakens, the virus emerges in all of its forms.
Right.
And that is what we've seen time and again in U.S. history, that when the system is weakened, usually by economic crises or something else, that's when this virus really becomes prevalent. So I think that you're absolutely right. I think that the neoliberalism...
You should just watch this from the beginning, honestly. Somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. Oh! Right-winger identified! Okay! Ladies and gentlemen, we have a right-winger. I want to thank you. For saying something that is so profoundly stupid. But, and I want to respect that. I'm sorry for insulting it as stupid. However, you are right about one thing, which is that is the logic of being a right winger. This is what you have to believe if you're a right winger. This is a foundational belief. All right. Today is going to be a good day. Trump's going to fire the establishment. Being a Democrat is being like a Karen. For every rich person, there needs to be 10 poor people, which is a very interesting comment. Hold on. That's how capitalism works. What's wrong with being a nationalism? If America fails, China and Russia wins. If America wins, China and Russia fail. Somebody has to win. Somebody has to lose on the global economy. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, right here, this is one of the dumbest segment of statements that I've ever seen. This is because this person thinks that human beings are largely evil. This is what you have to believe to be a conservative. These are the foundational beliefs of conservatives. I'm going to explain it to you because I understand conservatism better than conservatives do. Conservatives believe that we are a fallen species. Depending upon which culture they're in, they have their own individual mythologies for why that is. In America, it's largely a Christian idea relating to original sin and our fallen state. and basically that this world is a trial and that you can't make heaven on earth, right? There's going to be injustices, there's going to be evil, because there are cosmic forces of good and evil that are contending for men's souls, right? So the desire to create heaven on earth is in fact blasphemous, and that largely the status quo or the society that we're in today. And the thing about conservatives is they don't study history, so they don't know anything. It's very important. This is all, they're just intuiting. They're intuiting things. It sounds good to them, right? Don't look at history. Don't look at facts. Don't try to understand the material world. Just understand this is an intuition that conservatives have about the state of things. All right. And so because the world is evil, because there are these cosmic forces contending for men's souls, and because the desire to build heaven on earth is blasphemous, think of the story of the Tower of Babel, right? The Tower of Babel, the story of the Bible is very, very illuminating for how conservatives think, which is, in the story of the Tower of Babel, humanity was united. We all spoke the same language, and we were working together. And what did we do with that unity? We became incredibly powerful, and we dedicated our minds and our arts to building a tower so tall that it would reach heaven. And God looked down with the angels and quaked in fear, and he said, "Oh fuck, my creations are getting powerful enough to challenge me. I can't allow this." And so he struck us down with the myth of nations. He struck us down with tribalism. He created a million different languages. Why do human beings speak a bunch of different languages? The story in the Bible is that God created them to confound us, to make us less cooperative and less successful and more divided, so that we wouldn't challenge heaven. That is the story of the Tower of Babel, okay? But ironically, there is an incredible insight there, which is, of course, these divisions are totally artificial and they make no sense, and we should be trying to overcome them. And that cooperation leads to a better world, right? Like that's the corollary of the Tower of Babel, which is we should try to learn each other's languages so we can challenge God again, right? This is all literary, chat. Don't get too excited, okay? Now, okay, so conservatives believe that people are fundamentally evil, that there's these forces of good and evil, that the status quo is tradition, right? And the thing about tradition is, or the thing about nations, is that they're completely made up. They're completely arbitrary. They're not real. The lines on the map don't exist when you look down on the planet from space, except where humanity has so scarred the world as to create them with our wars and our fucking walls. But for the most part, nations are not discernible from space. And so for a conservative, how do you deal with all these facts? Well, because people are fundamentally bad, because people are fundamentally evil and they're contending for each other, then you need to take care of your own. And you need to, and the world is scarce, right? This is the other foundational belief of conservatives, is that there's not enough good to go around, right? This is the foundational belief of conservatism, okay? There's not enough good to go around. Okay, so because we live in the state of scarcity, who should get the good stuff and who should suffer? Well, to a conservative, because suffering is eternal, because it's blasphemous, and a challenge to God to make heaven on earth, then we need to have bad people suffer and good people be rewarded. All right? That is fundamentally the conservative foundational belief. So, how is that explained? Well, this conservative explained it so well for us, is that somebody's got to lose and somebody's got to win. So, good people should win and bad people should lose. But, and this is the very good point, this is very quickly exposed to be bullshit, right? The United States is not the good guys. We are evil. We are the world hegemon. Every evil thing you see in the world, we're doing, all right? Or we're contributing to in some way. So if America is the most powerful, yet it's doing so much evil, how can that be? And that's where the tribalism comes in. If we didn't do it, they do it to us. So it's not that we like doing it, but if we didn't do it, they'd do it to us, and they'd be even meaner. And as I can say, the conservative, am I being unfair? Mike, your success is based on other people's success by being able to subscribe to it. Those people who can afford to do that are taking advantage of capitalism. We're going to get back to this statement. This is another profoundly stupid statement. We're getting back into that. That's not my belief. Good people lose and bad people win all the time. I didn't say that good people always win and bad people always lose. I said that you believe that there is only so much good to go around. And so we need to make, hopefully you want bad people to be punished and good people to win. I'm not saying that it happens all the time. You just misunderstood what I was saying. Not very smart. It's okay. They 100% would. So here you go. The conservative is agreeing with me that if the United States was more good in the world, then that would cause harm, right? Like if the United States didn't attack China, then China would do greater harm, right? Than America is currently doing. And that's just made up bullshit. It's not based on anything. It's just an explanation to defend our own bad doing. Mike, are you describing realism in the context of international affairs? Exactly, I am. But I'm talking about conservative foundational beliefs that then derive into higher order things like realism. Okay? These are conservative foundational beliefs. Let's go back through them really quick. Conservatives believe we are in a fallen world. Conservatives believe, according to their religious myths of their individual nation, that there are cosmic forces of good and evil that are contending for men's souls. They believe in scarcity. There's only so much good to go around. And number 4, therefore, our people should get the good and those people should be bad. They should get the bad. Okay, Justin Trudeau is here.
So I thought it might be fun for us to do. Bon matin. Every morning I've woken up as Prime Minister. I've been inspired by the resilience, the generosity, and the determination of Canadians. It is the driving force of every single day I have the privilege of serving in this office. That is why, since 2015, I've fought for this country, for you, to strengthen and grow the middle class. Why we rallied to support each other through the pandemic, to advance reconciliation, to defend free trade on this continent, to stand strong with Ukraine and our democracy, and to fight climate change and get our economy ready for the future. We are at a critical moment in the world. Mes chers Canadiens, à chaque matin, je me suis réveillé en tant que Premier ministre, inspiré par la résilience, la générosité et la détermination qui nous caractérisent si bien en tant que Canadiens. C'est ce qui me motive à chaque jour où j'ai le privilège de servir dans ce poste. C'est pourquoi, depuis 2015, je me suis battu pour ce pays, pour vous, pour renforcer la classe moyenne. Pourquoi nous nous sommes mobilisés en tant que Canadiens pour se soutenir les uns les autres pendant la pandémie, pour faire progresser la réconciliation, pour défendre le libre-échange sur notre continent, pour notre soutien inébranlable de l'Ukraine et de la démocratie, et pour lutter contre les changements climatiques et préparer l'économie de l'avenir.
I already turned the volume up 300%, but I'll go for more.
My friends, as you all know, I'm a fighter. Every bone in my body has always told me to fight because I care deeply about Canadians. I care deeply about this country.
The idea of resigning on January 6th is hilarious.
By what is in the best interest of Canadians. And the fact is, despite best efforts to work through it, Parliament has been paralyzed for months after what has been the longest session of a minority parliament in Canadian history. That's why this morning I advised the Governor General that we need a new session of Parliament.
The problem is the NDP is terrible. It's basically Rad Libs. It's Rad Libs the party.
Prorogued until March.
Like it's like, imagine if too raw, too real. Like it's.
I've also had a chance.
There's no
to
left
reflect.
anymore.
I've had long talks with my family
It is
about our future. Throughout the course of my career, any success I have personally achieved has been because of their support and with their encouragement. So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide competitive process. Last night, I asked the president of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election. Mes chers amis, comme vous savez, je suis un fighter. Dans mon fort intérieur, je me suis toujours battu parce que je me soucie profondément des Canadiens. Et je serai toujours motivé parce qu'il est dans le meilleur intérêt des Canadiens. Et le fait est que malgré tous les efforts déployés pour passer à travers, le Parlement est paralysé depuis des mois, après ce qui a été la plus longue session de Parlement minoritaire dans l'histoire de notre pays. C'est pourquoi ce matin, j'ai rencontré la gouverneure générale pour lui faire savoir que nous avions besoin d'une nouvelle session du Parlement. Elle a accédé à ma demande et la Chambre sera donc prorogée jusqu'au 24 mars.
Hey everyone.
Pendant le temps des fêtes, j'ai également eu l'occasion de réfléchir et d'avoir de longues conversations avec ma famille quant à notre avenir. Tout au long de ma carrière, tout le succès que j'ai eu personnellement est dû à leur soutien, à leur encouragement. Donc hier soir, au souper, j'ai partagé avec mes enfants la décision que je partage avec vous tous aujourd'hui. J'ai l'intention de démissionner de mon poste de chef du Parti libéral du Canada et de Premier ministre une fois que le parti aura choisi son prochain chef à l'issue d'un processus national, rigoureux et compétitif. Hier soir, j'ai demandé au président du parti de commencer les étapes nécessaires. Le pays mérite un choix clair et réel lors des prochaines élections. Il est devenu évident pour moi que si je dois me concentrer sur des batailles internes, je ne peux pas être la meilleure option lors de ces élections. Le Parti libéral du Canada est une institution importante dans l'histoire de notre grand pays et de notre démocratie. Un nouveau premier ministre et chef du parti portera les valeurs et les idées du Parti libéral dans la prochaine élection. J'ai hâte d'observer le déroulement de ce processus dans les mois à venir. Nous avons été élus pour la 3e fois en 2021 pour renforcer l'économie après la pandémie et faire progresser les intérêts du Canada dans un monde complexe. Et c'est exactement ce que je vais continuer à faire, ce que nous allons continuer à faire pour les Canadiens. The Liberal Party of Canada is an important institution in the history of our great country and democracy. A new Prime Minister and leader of the Liberal Party will carry its values and ideals into that next election. I'm excited to see the process unfold in the months ahead. We were elected for the 3rd time in 2021 to strengthen the economy post-pandemic and advance Canada's interests in a complicated world.
And did they do that?
And that is exactly the job that I and we will continue to do for Canadians.
Except nobody could afford a house.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll now go to questions, starting with Laurence Martin, House of Canada.
Bonjour, Monsieur Trudeau. Vous vouliez le faire, ce combat contre Pierre
Is there a better
Poilievre,
version
les
of this
batailles
where
internes dans votre
they
parti
translate the
depuis plusieurs
French?
mois déjà. Pourquoi est-ce que vous
Because, like, come
décidez
on, man.
d'abdiquer maintenant? Qu'est-ce qui vous a fait changer d'avis?
Comme vous savez, je ne suis pas quelqu'un qui recule facilement devant un combat, surtout un combat si important pour le parti et pour le pays. Mais je fais ce job parce que
during the next
l'intérêt
elections
des
due to
Canadiens
internal
et
battles.
As you all know, I am a fighter, and I am not someone who backs away from a fight, particularly when a fight is as important as this one is. But I have always been driven by my love for Canada, by my desire to serve Canadians, and by what is in the best interest of Canadians. And Canadians deserve a real choice in the next election. And it has become obvious to me with the internal battles that I cannot be the one to carry the Liberal standard into the next election.
Vous êtes au pouvoir depuis près de 10
You've
ans.
been in power for nearly 10 years. Canada has changed with your government. If there's one accomplishment that you're the most proud of, I know there are several, but perhaps the thing you are most proud of, and maybe one regret.
Even as this guy is resigning in disgrace, the liberal media is like trying to prop him up. What do you? This is the Joe Biden method. Like, it really does say something incredible about neoliberalism, and I'm pausing it right now to provide my own commentary, which is that he's resigning on January 6th. Like, it really does say something that he's resigning on January 6th, because like Justin Trudeau and Joe Biden really do represent neoliberal centrism, utter collapse as a political ideology. And the reality is that the elites love it. It's their favorite ideology, because neoliberal centrism lets them fuck who they want to fuck, lets them have absolutely no responsibility, no noblesse oblige to the peasants who give them their elite status, right? While also allowing them to feast on the profits of the most exploited worker, no matter where they are in the world. The liberals are crying because this was their golden age, where they managed to, for a short period, destroy the working class's political self-knowledge. And what did they do with that victory? They exploited it to the maximum degree. Hundreds of millions and millions of people dead from drug overdoses, the complete destruction of hundreds of millions of people's livelihoods. And they're like, wait, what are you guys complaining about? Like, what are you guys complaining? This is great. Canada will fall in the hands of PP, and we need to more than this now. Honest to God, and I know this is my most radical take. Why does Canada even exist? Let's be honest. Trump's right. Why does Canada even exist? It's not a real country. It's not a real country. 99% of Canadians live along a 50-mile strip, right, clinging to the American border. Let's be real. It's not a real country. Annex Canada.
Answer.
And here's the thing. If you're a Canadian and you're hearing this and you're like, no, I love my single-payer healthcare. Dude, they're getting rid of it. The one thing that you guys used to hang your hat on is about to be gotten rid of by a mega landslide of the most right-wing conservatives. You're going to be begging to be annexed by America in a fucking year or two, okay? You might as well just get behind it now. Mike, you have a bunch of this is my most radical take. Yeah, well, this is my most conservative take. Annex Canada.
In 2015, we were elected on a promise to work for the middle class in this country. And that is what we did.
No, you did not.
We
you
reduced the level of
did
poverty.
not. Also, the middle
We
class
helped
is a made-up
families.
idea.
We created an economy that works for many more people.
Actually, it's not. Okay, so I'm going to pause it again for one more piece of analysis, and then I'll let Trudeau whine, because he's not going to be on here very long, so we're going to enjoy this. But he's right. He is working for the middle class in the ancient sense. Under feudalism, the middle class represented the capitalist class, the emerging capitalist class, the merchant classes, the classes of the cosmopolitan elite in cities, right? That's what they meant by middle class. They meant, economic elites that didn't have hereditary title, right? The upper class was those hereditary aristocrats, and the middle class was the capitalist class. So he's right. He has been governing in the interest of the middle class, aka in the interest of the ultra rich.
While preparing for the future, a more digital future, and to prepare for a world where climate change will have a greater impact. We've done a lot of work with Canadians, and Canada is better off due to the work that we've all done over the past few years. A regret?
No more good provolone at Jersey
I continue
Mike's.
to think
They're going to be
that
cutting back on that.
If our electoral
Which is the only reason to
system
go
had
to
been
Jersey
changed,
Mike's is for sharp provolone.
so that
Which is not
people
something you
would
can
be able
get.
to have a
You
first,
know,
second, and third
West
choice on the
Coasters don't know
ballot.
the beauty
Parties
of
would have
sharp
spent
provolone.
more time looking at their points in common
Makes me sad.
to be the second or third choice of voters rather than to see this polarization. But I could not unilaterally change our ballot system.
Oh yeah, he lied tremendously about doing like a ballot reform. So he didn't do the one thing he promised to do for NDP.
We got elected in 2015 to fight for the middle class, and that's exactly what we've done over the past years. We reduced their taxes, we increased the benefits to families, we made sure the economy was focused on working for everyone and not just a few, and that has changed. That has dropped poverty rates in Canada, that has brought more people into the workforce, that has moved us forward on reconciliation in a way that has deeply improved the opportunities and success of Canadians despite the incredibly difficult times the world is going through right now. There's lots more work to be done, and I know that this party and this country and Canadians will keep doing it. If I have one regret, particularly as we approach this election, well, there are probably many regrets that I will think of, but I do wish that we'd been able to change the way we elect our governments in this country so that people could simply choose a second choice or a third choice on the same ballot, so that parties would spend more time trying to be people's second or third choices, and people would have been looking for things they have in common instead of trying to polarize and divide Canadians against each other. I think in this time, figuring out how to pull together and find common ground remains something that is really important for democracies. But I could not change unilaterally, without support of other parties, our electoral system. That wouldn't have been responsible.
The median household income in Canada is $79,876. But the average home price in Canada is $757,000. The average home price is $757,000. That's even worse than America as far as the ratio between household income and home prices. That is unbelievable. I don't think it's ever been that bad in America in our entire history. Oh my God. More than 10x. 10x. That's crazy. Every condo is a minimum like $500,000 starting in GTA and most of Ontario. I live in Halifax. We have the highest rent and home increase in the entire world post-COVID. Houses went from $300K to almost $900K. Here's the thing about that is like, so some people did benefit from those housing price increases, and they now rely on their high housing valuations. They probably borrowed against their housing price. So if you try to asset deflate Canadians, it's going to cause a massive depression. It's going to like break banks. It's going to cause massive, it's going to, oh my God, like deflating this property bubble. This isn't China. Okay. This isn't China. We don't like China deflated their housing bubble, chat. And it made their economy go from growing 8% a year to 5% per year. Like deflating their housing bubble has really like slowed their economy down quite a bit. I mean, they have no inflation in China. They had no inflation after COVID, but their growth rate did slow down quite a bit. And like breaking up their housing bubble required massive government intervention and planning and like government backstops and all sorts of things. And they did it in a super coordinated way, and they managed to deflate their housing bubble, right? And they're still kind of dealing with it. But there was like deflation at prices. And as G said, things getting cheaper is good. So we're not necessarily going to like blow up the economy just to make prices go up. America and Canada don't have 5% of the capacity of the government that the Chinese do. If we have if we have an asset price bubble pop, this is Great Depression level shit.
Prochaine question. Tonda McCharles, Toronto Star. Prime Minister, up until 3 weeks ago, you were intending to stay, and it seems that the event 3 weeks ago of Ms. Freeland coming out and saying you were firing her as your finance minister was the catalyst that brought us here today. So can you explain your side of what happened there?
Chrystia has been by my side for close to 10 years now. She has been an incredible political partner through just about everything we have done as a government and as a party over the past decade. I had really hoped that she would agree to continue as my Deputy Prime Minister and take on one of the most important files that not just this government but this country is facing, but she chose otherwise. In regards to what actually happened, I am not someone who's in the habit of sharing private conversations. Christia
was by my side for nearly 10 years. She was a political partner, a crucial political partner, given everything that we've gone through as a party and as a government. And I really would have wanted for her to choose to continue as my Deputy Prime Minister, and that she would take over one of the most important files that we will have to deal with in the next few months. But she did not want to do that. As for details, I'm not one to share details of private conversations.
About the Liberal Party as an institution and the internal battles right now, but I'm wondering if you feel that another leader will have more success than you will at beating Pierre Poilievre in the next campaign.
Yeah, he's lying about the electoral
Pierre Poilievre's
reforms. Yeah,
vision
he's a complete
for this
fraud.
country.
But the thing is, liberals don't want to have electoral reforms. They oppose electoral reforms in America for the same reason they oppose electoral reforms in Britain, and the same reason they oppose electoral reforms in Canada, is because the moment you start electoral reforms, then they have to start. Then they get competed against by parties of different ideological backgrounds. But the reality is that the left is not coherent anywhere. There's like not even a very good left anywhere. Like maybe you could say Mexico, but even there, I mean, it's not even that left. What is your thoughts on the BSW party in Germany? My feeling about the BSW party is it is a cultural party of the Eastern Germany. It only really makes sense to the context of Eastern Germany. Anti-woke politics as the center of your politics as a left-winger is inherently contradictory. However, I will say this, that Germany's left is fucking ridiculous and sucks. So I don't know what else to say. No, I'm not, I'm not as against her as a lot of other people are who are, on the online left, because they do the posturing of like, she's not woke enough. But as far as me, I don't think she's particularly. I don't think she's found the special sauce yet. I think of Mélenchon more than I do of her as a more serious left winger.
Is not the right one for Canadians. Stopping the fight against climate change doesn't make sense. Backing off on the values and strength in diversity that Canada has always work to pull itself together on is not the right path for the country. Attacking journalists, the CBC institutions, that's not what Canadians need in this moment. We need an ambitious, optimistic view of the future, and Pierre Poilievre is not offering that. And I look forward to the fight as progressives across this country stand up for the kind of vision for a better country that Canadians have always carried, despite the tremendous pressures around the world to think smaller, to veer towards the hard right, and to be less ambitious for what we can be and do as a country when the world really needs Canada.
That's not an answer, though. Yes or no? Is there another leader that could beat him?
Absolutely.
Sur le leader?
Oui.
Est-ce que vous
Pierre
pouvez
Poilievre.
élaborer en français, s'il vous plaît? Merci.
Pierre Poilievre a une vision.
Pierre Poilievre has a very small vision and the wrong vision for Canada, if we even accept that he has a vision. He wants to back off on fundamental values, wanting to stop the fight against climate change, refusing to invest in a greener and more inclusive economy, trying to divide Canadians rather than uniting them to face the future together in an ambitious and optimistic way. That is not the right choice for Canadians. And I'm looking forward to be part of a progressive movement that will seek out a better future for our country and for Canadians. An optimistic vision for Canadians. Hélène Buzetier. Hello, Mr. Trudeau. 16 years ago, in December 2008, Stephen Harper prorogued Parliament to avoid a vote of non-confidence that he knew that he would lose because the three opposition parties would vote against him. It's the exact same situation that you find yourself in today. Stéphane Dion at the time had said, and I quote, that this was an affront to democracy. I'd like to know why what was bad for conservatives of Stephen Harper should be good for the Liberals of Justin Trudeau. The Governor General in 2008 had concluded, and correctly so, that the House had given formal confidence to Mr. Harper's government, despite a signed letter. This was a political document at the time. The voice of the House counts. So, before stopping the work at the House over the holidays, we won 3 non-confidence votes. And so we're going to have to test the confidence of the House as of March to adopt the necessary budgetary credit so that the government can continue to function.
In 2008, the Governor General correctly concluded that because the very last times in the previous weeks that the confidence of the House had been tested, it had passed that confidence test, Stephen Harper continued to have the confidence of the House. And it actually would bear out because as soon as they came back from the prorogation, Stephen Harper won a confidence vote once again. So a political document or political speeches doesn't carry the kind of weight that winning a confidence vote means. But this prorogation will take us only into March, and there will be confidence votes in March in the passing of supply that will allow Parliament to weigh in on confidence in a way that is entirely in keeping with all the principles of democracy and the workings of our strong institutions.
With all due respect, isn't there something a little bit anti-democratic to suspend the possibility of the House of expressing their non-confidence while your party is looking for its savior? Shouldn't you call an election right now? Well, I think that, as everyone in the press gallery, the parliamentary press gallery knows, the extent to which Parliament has been paralyzed now for several months. We are stuck on a question of privilege. There are constant obstructionist motions being presented, and we've accomplished very little over the past few months. The House of Commons needs a reset. People need to calm down and to get back to work for Canadians and not play petty politics constantly. And that is what we're seeing on behalf of the Conservatives right now. So this reset has 2 elements. Prorogation, to begin with. This allows us to start over with a fresh, new approach at the Parliament. And secondly, the Liberal Party will begin the process to choose a new leader. And I expect that if I am not the one who will lead the party to the next elections, the polarization that we see right now at the House of Commons should also settle down. Canadians need a fully functioning Parliament, specifically during this complex period, and both elements will represent the reset that we need. In English, but can you explain why you're not calling an election?
The parliamentary press gallery and anyone who's been watching politics closely over the past months will know that Parliament has been entirely seized by obstruction
From
and
your own party,
filibustering
bro.
and a total lack of productivity over the past few months. We
Sounds
are
like the
right now the
Democrats.
longest serving minority government in history.
I mean, this is basically just this is just the center left everywhere. The center left everywhere is a coalition that doesn't make sense, and it needs to break up. I'm sorry, guys, but I know that there's some of you that are trying to pivot toward resistance liberalism and are frauds, but the reality is that if you have liberals with power, they will fuck you over the moment you try to do anything to build state capacity. Liberals cannot be worked with, and their ideology is dying. And so the question we have to ask ourselves, are we going to turn toward more failure, or are we going to turn against it? And I know there's a lot of people right now who are desperate to just climb the social ladder. They're desperate to climb the social ladder. They're desperate to cling on to power. And I must tell you this, the more they cling to it, the more they will lose it. We need to build ourselves an uncompromising left that actually has the balls to dream big. And that involves, and by the way, the left has got to be ready to smash fucking heads. And if you don't have that in you, if you still want to walk around with an olive branch, you are a dope. We tried that. It's called 2019. It failed. It's the one thing we haven't tried is a left that isn't scared, a left that isn't whining, a left that isn't cringing, a left that isn't like, oh, I don't want to offend you. The Bolsheviks learned that since liberals are losing the war against the far right in every Western nation, do you think liberals will embrace the left or the far right to survive? No, they will. Liberals are collaborators. Liberals are always collaborators with fascism. That's what they do. That's all they are. They're socially oriented people. The people that are liberal today, if they lived in China, they would be Communist Party members. They're just socially oriented people. They join the Nazi Party if it was Nazi Germany. They would join the Communist Party. They're just oriented toward the status quo. That's who most liberals are. They don't believe in anything. It's about playing whatever the game is for their own individual gain. It's not very so yes, of course they're not going to like fight the system. They're constitutionally incapable of fighting the system. That's how most people are, not just liberals. And that's why we need a vanguard party. That's why we need the most advanced elements of the class to step up to leadership.
The temperature to come down, for the people to have a fresh start in Parliament, to be able to navigate through these complex times, both domestically and internationally. And the reset that we have is actually two parts. One is the prorogation, but the other part is recognizing that removing me from the equation as the leader who will fight the next election for the Liberal Party should also decrease the level of polarization that we're seeing right now in the House and in Canadian politics, and allow people to actually focus on serving Canadians in this House and with their work the way Canadians deserve.
On va prendre une dernière question.
Good morning, Prime Minister Stephanie Taylor with the National Post. Given, as you just said, there's going to be confidence votes in March, opposition parties have said they are prepared to bring down your government. What kind of chances do you think you are leaving to your successor, given that there will only be mere weeks for them to introduce themselves to Canadians before heading into an election, potentially?
I have a tremendous amount of confidence in both Canadians and in parliamentarians' interest in serving Canadians in the right way. We're in a minority government right now, and there hasn't been an active leadership in a minority government in more than 50 years in this country. And there is always going to be the challenge of having a leadership race while a parliament would face confidence votes in the course of delivering supply to the government. So this is something that we're going to navigate through, but I truly feel that removing the contention around my own continued leadership is an opportunity to bring the temperature down, have a government that will focus on the complex issues that are coming forward in the coming months, while the party gets to have a full national process that brings in people from right across the country and makes a determination about the best person to carry the progressive liberal standard into the next election.
Can you clarify whether ministers who would like to campaign for your job will have to step out of cabinet? And how can the Liberal government be in a position to protect Canadian businesses and Canadians from the threat of tariffs from incoming President Donald Trump when members of the government are going to be focused on who's going to be taking your job?
The government will still, and the cabinet will still be
party-led government be democratic? Yes. People will do whatever they need to do to stay on top. It's in human DNA, survival of the fittest. Going back to my last points of somebody winning and somebody losing. Thank you for telling me you're very conservative brained. Yes, I understand that. Actually, societies that cooperate are the ones that are the most powerful. Individuals are not very powerful. Productivity comes from cooperation, from collectivization, from centralization. That's why the most powerful countries are the largest, because they are having larger and larger groups of people cooperate. That's why small countries get bullied, because they have small cooperation.
Very much focused on doing the job that Canadians elected us to do in 2021, which is fight for their interests, stand up for their well-being, and make sure that they are good and that Canadians are protected and strong. There will be a leadership process and the rules will unfold over the coming weeks, but I can assure you that the tools and the need to stand up for Canadians, to protect Canadians in their interests and continue to fight for the economy is something that everyone in this government will be singularly focused on.
I can say that the rules and conditions for the leadership of the Liberal Party will be discussed in the following weeks. The government that was elected to protect Canadians and their interests in a very complex world that was elected in 2021 will continue to work with a focus and a singular emphasis on working in the interest of Canadians, while the party itself does what's necessary in order to go through leadership process. Thank you.
Merci tout le monde. Merci d'être ici. Belle journée d'Ottawa. Bonne journée.
Why not resign
And that is
earlier,
Justin Trudeau,
bitch?
the Prime Minister of Canada and leader of the Liberal Party of Canada, announcing that he will not hold that job much longer. Hello, I'm Rosemary Barton, Chief Political Correspondent, here with our special coverage of this monumental day in Canadian politics. Justin Trudeau confirming what we've been reporting this morning, that indeed he is stepping away from his role, saying that
Thank God.
While this is a critical moment in the world, and he is a fighter, he has realized that he cannot continue to fight an election as he fights internal battles, told Canadians that he only told his kids.
I'm a successful business owner. I started as an employee, then learned the ropes and started my own business. If I stopped what people told me, I wouldn't be where I am today. So in other words, are you hiring other people in your business, or are you just a small business owner making money from your own labor? I would love to pick into this. This seems like a good LARP. I have 2 employees. Now, do your employees produce more value for your company than their wages cost? Like, for example, like I don't know what business you're in, but do your employees produce more value for your company than they cost? Like, you know, for example, let's say they produce like $200 an hour worth of profit, and you pay them $100 an hour. Very small business.
last night at dinner that he was making this decision, to give you an idea of how he struggled with that decision over time. And he called for a leadership process, which he says
Did you see the
quote,
NHS was privatized this morning? Wait, what? No, it wasn't.
robust, nationwide, and competitive in choosing the next leader. The Parliament also has been prorogued until March 24th, which gives the Liberal Party some time to put that process in place. But a slightly emotional Justin Trudeau, obviously making an announcement that he didn't want to make, but felt at this point that he had no further choice. The host of Power and Politics, David Cochrane, is here. CBC's senior writer, Aaron Wary, and writer, author of a book about Justin Trudeau and his leadership. I guess there won't be a follow-up, Aaron, at this stage. David, what did you take from what Justin Trudeau had to say?
Well, it was interesting. The Prime Minister said in announcing why he was leaving that it became very clear to him that if he has to keep fighting internal battles, he can't be the credible choice for Canadians in the next election. You can either say he's an acknowledgement of the caucus unrest, or you could say he's pointing the finger at the caucus unrest as the reason that he is leaving. It to some degree ignores the fact that they lost Toronto St. Paul's, lost LaSalle et Verdun, lost Langley Cloverdale by a massive margin. All seats they held, which they do not hold as of today. And Andy Fillmore, who is now the mayor of Halifax, was the MP for Halifax, resigned as the MP in August. And there still isn't a candidate in place as we get into January. He's got 54 days, I believe, to call that by-election. So there is the internal political dynamic, which he acknowledges. There's also the external political dynamic, which he kind of did not acknowledge. But he has landed on a decision that has seemed inevitable and obvious for quite some time, though you could see when you heard him at a place we're used to hearing him speak, though not for quite a while, how tough this was, how difficult this was, and how reluctant he was to do this. Like, as he said, he was a fighter, and I think that's true. Like, I've joked that I feel like he's had his sweat gland surgically removed because he doesn't seem to get nervous, right? He stares things down and he takes them on. This was too big of a thing for him to do that, and that's why we're now going to be going into this leadership process to pick a new prime minister.
He did seem relaxed. He seemed himself. He seemed at peace with the decision, Aaron. But again, I think telling your kids the day before you announce it is probably an indication of how long you may have struggled with this decision. He also talked about Pierre Poilievre, saying that, again, he didn't believe his vision was the right one for Canada, but he said he absolutely believed that there was someone out there that could beat him, which I thought was kind of interesting too, because, you know, maybe 5 days ago he would have thought he was that person.
He probably still, to a certain
extent.
Yeah,
he probably still, yeah.
I thought he looked humbled. I thought, actually, for the first time...
Like, can I just say, like, this is why people don't watch mainstream media. I thought he looked humbled. Like, what is the point of that? What's the point of that statement? It doesn't mean anything. It's useless.
That I can remember, he looked older. He looked like he had actually aged.
Guys, the guy who's been prime minister for a decade looks like he got older over the course of a decade. Yeah, it's called linear time, motherfucker. Thanks for the hard-hitting analysis. Like, legitimately, this is the senior writer. Let's see if he says anything of value. Come on, we'll get it. Let's go, man.
I think, you know, it felt like a lot of the affectation that sometimes goes into the way he speaks publicly was drained out of him today.
Yeah.
Guys, the affectation was drained. You know, the end of your political career is going out in humiliating fashion, and your party seems to be on the verge of collapse, and your legacy is one of failure. I wonder how you're feeling. I'm going to go ahead and say you're not feeling good. Okay, are we done with this? Or are we going to continue with more of Trudeau's emotions? By the way, like, look at what the CBC is comfortable talking about. The emotions of the guy. This is why no one watches this shit. No one fucking cares. Nobody fucking cares, you fucking losers. And yeah, I'm using too many F-bombs. I'm sorry, but what do you want me to say? Can you, for the once in your life, do your job as a journalist and talk about something that affects Canadians for the love of God? Can you say, like, hey, he was really hurt by the housing crisis and the cost of living crisis, And, you know, conservatives are pushing for immigration restrictions because they say that it'll lower, you know, blah, 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 blah. And they want to privatize this, you know, healthcare. Like, what? Like, can you talk about anything? Can you do your fucking job at all once? Provide an ounce of worthwhile information.
And you know, granted, that is sort of a classic observation when someone concedes defeat, that was their finest moment and they were so eloquent. If only we'd seen that person more in the previous months. But it does, I think it was striking to see him today. I think his diagnosis is correct, that if you're a party leader, if you're a prime minister, you can't you can't plausibly contest an election with that much kind of internal dysfunction around you or behind you. There was always a plausible argument for Justin Trudeau staying on as leader and leading the Liberals into the next election, even as things got quite bad. The problem, I guess the requirement for that, though, was that he had to at least be able to hold together caucus and cabinet. Mm-hmm. And once cabinet and caucus fell out behind him, once caucus aligned against him, once Chrystia Freeland left, there just wasn't a path forward. I think it's interesting that he is viewing this in terms of removing himself from the debate, from the picture, and whether that changes things. I think that is a big question now. Mm-hmm. I'm sure the Conservatives were banking on running against Justin Trudeau in the next election. They will now have to make some different calculations. Yep. And voters themselves will now have to look and say, was it Justin Trudeau we didn't want? Or was it the Liberal Party we didn't want? Is it the Conservative Party we want? Yes. Those are the questions that now get...
wow, guys. This is some senior writing insight. This is some senior writing. This is the question. Do we like which party's policies? Not what those policies are, not what those policies will mean, not an analysis of those policies, not comparative politics where we look at countries that have adopted similar policies to the policies that each party is proposing and the consequences. Not even an attempt to do an overview of Trudeau's time in office. Just the most, I mean, I could hire a 5-year-old to do the same questions. Like, what is going on with this shit? Is it me, or is mainstream media dumber than ever? Has mainstream media kind of like said, okay, our only hope is to get the lowest IQ people? I know intelligent quotient isn't the, you get what I'm saying. I mean it in the colloquial sense, and the intelligent, like the people that have hard times, tying their shoes. Like, what is the plan? It's like, as politics gets more unstable, the commentary that the mainstream corporate media and the mainstream, state media allows gets narrower and narrower and more devoid of information.
I guess could get a bit clearer.
People are definitely attacking me, so I will just take Q step back and by because it's getting talk. Okay, don't be mean to the Conservative. He's very funny. He's a funny pet. He's just demonstrating conservative brain. I know his brain better than he does. Trump's Animaniacs. What the fuck does that mean? Trump-o-maniacs? Okay, I don't know why that would get you banned, but okay.
Now that Justin Trudeau, who has been as public and prominent a prime minister as we've ever had, has now removed himself from the picture.
David, do you
We've
want
got a statement from NDP leader Jagmeet Singh, and often on days like this, you see the "thank you for your service" statement. That's not what.
Look up Animaniacs, January 6th. Okay, it is January 6th, chat.
We're Animani, totally insane.
They pushed me out and maced me.
Statement is. Jagmeet Singh says Justin Trudeau's Liberals let down Canadians. They let you down on home prices. They let you down on health care. They let you down by allowing corporate greed to run wild. Even with the country facing another serious blow to Canadian jobs and our cost of living, this time from Donald Trump, they're still focused only on themselves and their political fate. The problem is not Justin Trudeau. It's every minister that's been calling the shots. It's every Liberal MP that looked down their nose at Canadians who are worried about high costs or crumbling health care. The Liberals do not deserve another chance, no matter who is the leader. It goes on like that for a couple more paragraphs where he takes shots at Pierre Poilievre.
Wonder where that guy's been for the past 6 months.
But that's
NGP. Wow. Oh my God. Somebody said something political. Let's cut it off. Oh, let's how mean he's being, guys. He's being mean.
Normally,
I honest to God, Jagmeet, like with all due respect to Jagmeet, I think he should resign as well. Like, with all due respect to Jugmeat, it's not that I dislike him or anything. It's just at a certain point, you're not gaining any. Like, you're not, like, the liberals are collapsing and it's all going to the conservatives. Like, that means that you are not, you need to go. Like, with all due respect. Like, if you're not making gains when liberals are collapsing, then there's a problem with you. And it doesn't, you know, it's not fair. You just don't have the juice. And you need somebody who has the juice. He's got his balls back now that his pension is guaranteed in February. Oh, hell yeah. Well, that's good. But maybe we'll see. I mean, if he is able to get out there and start making some real arguments, then I'll change my mind. But at this point, I feel like he's been given enough time and he's not making gains.
It's served himself difficult times, served the country difficult times, sacrificed himself. No, this is about, right now, there is a vacuum of progressive leadership that will be filled potentially by the Liberal leadership race, but Jagmeet Singh is trying to fill it now, and that's why we're going to hear from him very quickly.
And to be clear, this changes a lot of things. This changes, as Aaron pointed out, how the Conservatives adjust their strategy to no leader and then someone. It changes potentially. It obviously has changed how Jagmeet Singh responds. Let's bring in David's panel, because we're in David's studio, because that's what happens during this time. And I don't have a studio big enough for everybody. Vandana Qatar is a former advisor to Prime Minister Trudeau. Greg McEachern, former Liberal ministerial staffer. Melanie Richer is a former communications director of the NDP. We did have to say goodbye to Lisa Ray, former Conservative minister. She will come back, so don't worry, because I'm sure, as always, she has lots to say too. Vandana, I'm going to start with you because I know I can see in your face you're a little emotional, so I want to start from sort of the human perspective before we get into all the other pieces.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's tough.
The human perspective, guys! The human perspective! Again? They already did it! Oh, the poor baby. He's resigning. Oh, the poor baby. Imagine if they cared about the human perspective of the millions of Gazans that are being genocided right now. Do you hear them do any human perspectives from them?
I first met the Prime Minister when I was 20 years old. That was quite some time ago. And my journey with him started on leadership, revamping the party and in opposition in third party, and then all the way until about 2 years ago. So
you were there for the bad days and the good days.
Yeah. So you can argue I'm here for this day. So listen, it's tough, but I think there's a lot to be proud of. I want to thank the Prime Minister for his service and even just giving me the opportunity to serve a country. You know, my dad came here in '71 and I got to give back in a place that's given my family so much.
Nobody, I mean, like, I gotta say this, and I gotta say this loud, and I gotta say it proud. Nobody fucking cares. I'm sorry, nobody fucking cares about your personal, like, if you go on the national news and you're just like, well, my family, are you a politician? Who gives a fuck? Can we please, for the love of God, talk about some issues?
But there's lots to be proud of. Getting the party from third to first, which was unheard of at the time. The child benefits, middle class tax cut, housing strategy, a revamped relationship with Indigenous communities.
You just list off talking points. They weren't successful. The housing situation in Canada is worse than ever. He failed. Why are you listing a thing that he failed the most in?
And a lot of stuff for racialized and underestimated Canadians. So I think there's a lot of good there. So lots to be proud of.
Is absolutely dead. It's absolutely dead. I'm not even going to pretend that it's like, oh, it's a waste of our time. Every time somebody talks about representation instead of results, you should scoff. I'm not saying representation is bad. I'm just saying results are what matter.
You can make the argument he could have went earlier or whatever, but...
Hello, Mike has Ethan Klein. Huh? Wait, what's happening? What was the message? Mike has Ethan Klein in the title, and the H3 sub is already spreading. Oh, that's just, who gives a fuck? I haven't even said anything about Ethan Klein. All I can say about Ethan Klein is simply this. He has cognitive dissonance between what he wants to believe about Israel and what Israel is actually doing. And because he's been publicly supportive of Israel, even though Israel has gone on to commit the most horrible war crimes of the 21st century, he's now caught between what he wants to think about himself and what he actually believes in. And that cognitive dissonance causes tremendous emotional upset and results in him needing to have a target. He needs to have external targets to deal with the internal contradictions. And it's just like, that's sad, man. And, you know, blowing up your attacking people that you were friends with for years because they see what's going on in Gaza as a crime against humanity, which any reasonable person does. It shows a real weakness of your character. Conservatives are going to dominate Canadian federal election. Things will get worse for the Canadian working class. I mean, yes, I expect Canada is usually like 4 or 5 years behind America in politics, but it seems like they're going to be catching up. It seems like they're going to be catching up, folks.
I think the point is he did make the right decision today. I think it's good for him to put his family first. I do see him being more relaxed and just feeling at peace with the decision. And that's what you need, right? I do think, no leader lasts forever, but as much as I am personally sad today, he's been a good friend and mentor to me. But, I always look forward to whatever brings the new Liberal Party next.
Yeah. How about you, Greg? Because you've been with the Liberal Party for a long time. You've seen this story before, leaders come and go. This very different because, as we've been talking about it, some of this very much self-inflicted.
Yeah.
But when it came time to make the decision, here we are.
Yeah, and Vandana and I were talking out in the hallway, and we were both, this is a hard day. I'm thinking of the Prime Minister. I'm thinking a lot of friends that I have on staff, and it's been a difficult couple of months, especially, in some of those relationships. I think about the guy that I met Justin, I think, during the 2006 Junos, but when he became an MP, I remember Mr. Ignatieff had a summer caucus in Cape Breton. And I won't go into the details, but there was something going on with a bit of sadness in a family, and Justin Trudeau had stepped in and did something really nice that no one will ever know about except for that family in the days after that. And I thought, that's a good guy. He doesn't have to do that, and he's not doing it for show. And he was doing a lot of that when the Liberal Party, the next year, historic low, and he continued to build the party. So, Liberals are rightly grateful to him for that, and I think he's done a lot of good. I said in an interview with CBC on Friday, I had been talking to a couple of MPs, and I think where this was going was it was not going to end up in a good place, and that a lot of us who like Justin Trudeau did not want it to go to that place. He deserved better.
Yeah.
And I wish it wasn't this way. I wish that, as David said, the first response is usually, some congratulatory, and it's not. I think people need to take a breath. Remember that, there's been a lot of personal sacrifice. I'll be blunt. He went into this as a married man, and he's coming out of this not. That's got to be tough on a family. You referred, Rosie, to the dinner last night. So I'm thinking about those things. The other thing, just to kind of tie a knot in this, is Aaron made a really good point about the Save the Furniture part of this, and I think we look at Brian Mulroney, and the big difference is if you read books about that time, his caucus was very loyal to him to the end. Justin Trudeau's caucus really wants to be loyal to him, but they just kept asking for things that seemed to be pretty basic, and were being told that they were coming, and they didn't come. So eventually you just winnow away all that support.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of sad we're at this point.
Yeah, and I will say, Brian Mulroney did a much better job of managing caucus relations than Justin Trudeau ever did, to Mr. Mulroney's credit. From an NDP lens, what are you, let's talk about Justin Trudeau before we move on to Jagmeet Singh, who we're going to hear from at about 1 o'clock, I think.
Yeah, well, I think I agree with a lot of what has been said already. Do I agree with everything the Prime Minister has done? No. Do I think he missed the moment a lot of the times and had a hard time?
This is the NDP. Oh my Lord. Okay.
With what folks were going through in a way that made folks feel like they were being heard and understood.
I think every time a politician says the word folks, they should get electrically shocked. I think every single time a politician says the word folks, they should be shocked with an electric probe. We tortured some folks.
He's done some really good things for this country. He's done some...
Okay, so if you have a politician who's in a different party than you, and they have record unpopularity... Now, my guess she's former director of communications because the NDP is a loser party. But if a politician of a different party than you is very unpopular and they're resigning, you don't go up there and say, wow, they did a lot of good things. We like that guy. We like him. You go up there and say, he's a fucking loser. And every liberal is exactly like him. You're supposed to be the and also, can I just say this? Isn't it crazy how this communication person cannot speak in a coherent and fluid way? Your entire job is communication, and you're licking your lips. Look at that! Look how bad she is at this.
Seem to be pretty basic, and we're being told that they were coming and they didn't come. So eventually you just winnow away all that support. And I'm kind of sad we're at this point.
Yeah, and I will say Brian Mulroney did a much better job of managing caucus relations than Justin Trudeau ever did, to Mr. Mulroney's credit. From an NDP lens, what are you, let's talk about Justin Trudeau before we move on to Jagmeet Singh, who we're going to hear from in about, at about 1 o'clock, I think.
Yeah, well, I think I agree with a lot of what has been said already. Do I agree with everything the Prime Minister has done? No. Do I think he missed the moment a lot of the times and had a hard time connecting with what folks were going through in a way that made folks feel like they were being heard and understood? Yep. Totally. But he's done some really good things for this country. He's done some really good things for people. I will forever love dental care, and I know, I'll say the NDP pushed that, but he delivered on it, right? That is a reality. People that I love are getting dental care because, something that the Prime Minister did. So regardless of...
What a fucking loser!
All of this thing that's happened lately and where we are at with caucus, I think people will remember him kindly. He wasn't mean-spirited. He wasn't, punching to punch. And I think that's really important in our leaders, and it's not always the case. So maybe that's what I'll say about the Prime Minister. I think folks will remember him for the kind things that he did, and he did have an impact, a positive impact on people. Other stuff, for sure, but... I think that's probably something that we should be reflecting on today. All parties should be doing that.
Oh, we can talk about some of the controversies and own goals too, because that has obviously also contributed to his.
So South Korea's Secret Service equivalent is promising to fight other parts of the South Korean government to prevent the arrest of the now impeached and removed president. Nice.
His time as Prime Minister and to where he finds himself today and where he found himself with his caucus in terms of being able to manage some of those relationships. On the right of your screen is, of course, West Bloc. We're waiting to hear from the leader of the Bloc Québécois, François Blanchet, who will have something to say about this. Maybe not quite as harsh as Jagmeet Singh's statement, but we'll wait and see. I should point out we do have some tweets from some leadership contestants or people we expect will be leadership contestants, Christy Clark and Mark Carney. We can show you those in the coming moments as well. They obviously thanking the Prime Minister for his service. Let's go to the CBC's Ashley Burke. She is at Rideau Cottage, where the Prime Minister was speaking to Canadians and announced that he is stepping down. Ashley, what did you hear there, and what struck you from Justin Trudeau today?
Well, Rosie, it was sort of a subdued scene from the few members of his staff that were here at Rideau Cottage as he stepped outside and said that after almost a decade serving as leader, that he was no longer going to be the leader of the Liberal Party. And there were more than 24 journalists.
How did she do that? How does she go up there and go well, he did this good thing. Why? Who gives a fuck what good thing he did? If you can't go up there and push your political party and be like, the problem with Justin Trudeau is that he constantly caved to corporate power in this country and the power of asset holders, and he did nothing for the working class, regular native Canadians. Housing is completely unaffordable, and that's a basic human right, and his housing policies were a complete catastrophe. Why can't you go up there and say that, and say that's why you need the NDP, because we'll actually get shit done? Why is this hard?
And as well, videographers and photographers all packed outside. And when he stepped out of Rideau Cottage, he cracked open the door and came down the stairs. And his speech in this moment, actually, the resignation speech that was sitting on the stand, it blew away. He did have a teleprompter, but it was a moment where he kind of made light of it before giving that speech.
This is Canadian news in a nutshell. Guys, can you believe? Poor Justin, his speech blew away. That actually does represent Canadian news really well, because it's I want to tell you about the speech blew away instead of what was in the speech and what's politically valid or what is politically relevant. This is what makes me so fucking mad at Canada. Politeness has a chokehold on the population. Canadians take the stereotype that they're nice as a Canadian. Not true. It won't listen to anyone's anger or criticisms. unless it's nice and polite and kind. I feel like you're going to find out that's not the case. I think you're going to find that's not the case.
That you heard where he repeatedly talked about what he said was that he's a fighter, but that Parliament had been paralyzed by what's going on and just simply isn't functioning after what he called one of the longest serving minority parliaments, that it was time really for a reset. So that's something that he spoke about repeatedly, and really the scene here, quiet, a lot of journalists, very subdued.
Of his staff there, Ashley, or do you have the sense that there was anyone with him in the House or anyone there supporting him and sort of prepping him for this?
We didn't get a sense of that on the scene. There were a couple members of his staff that were here. Certainly for some of them, it seemed like this was a surreal moment, that they did not think this is how this was going to end, that they thought there'd be an election before he left, even though there has been obviously building momentum from within his own caucus, especially over the holidays, for him to step down and resign. But still, I think for them, this is not really a day that they wanted to see or that they expected to happen when it did, perhaps.
Okay, I don't know if that's the Prime Minister's motorcade behind you. I do not want you to get crushed on air, just letting you know that I think that is his motorcade.
It does appear that's what that is.
Yeah.
It is.
Just to let
people. It was a quick press conference. He only took a few questions, Rosie, as well. 4 in total.
And to let people know, he is obviously it continues to be
like these. This is pathological neutrality. I haven't talked about this in a while, but it's going to be coming back that Donald Trump is in the White House. The pathological neutrality is basically where the media just starts refusing to make any kind of judgments at all and just starts sticking to like recitations of irrelevant facts. And like it gets harder and harder to squeeze any value whatsoever out of anything they're saying. Oh, he took 4 questions. Okay. Thank you for the fact. But it doesn't matter. Why is that making it through editorial like control? Like, hey, we don't want to talk about the policies. Let's talk about the number of questions he asks, and let's all try to read his mind about how he's feeling. What is this shit?
Prime Minister, and is continuing with some of that work today. He has the Canada-U.S. Cabinet Committee, and we've also been told there's a full cabinet meeting at 3 p.m. Eastern. Ashley, just one last quick word from you.
Yeah, I think just what happens next was a big focus today, and as well from reporters wanting to know what was the moment that he made this decision. What was the turning point? Because there have been calls for a long time. Has he put his party in a position where they're going to be hurt heading into the next election because he didn't leave sooner? We didn't get a lot of details about what really that turning point was, and the key thing that his decision that made him turn around. But we do know that he did take time, he said, to reflect over the holidays and speak to his family and others around him to come to this decision. Because before the holidays, it didn't look like this was going to happen.
Ashley Burke, thank you. Ashley Burke at Rideau Cottage. Maybe we'll come back to you unless you come back here, and we'll talk to you when you're here. Thank you for that, Ashley Burke. We are going to say goodbye to viewers on CBC Television. Our coverage continues on CBC News Network or wherever you stream CBC News. Rosemary Barton here in Ottawa. We are, of course, covering the resignation.
Another China W? Uh-oh, what happened? Enamel repair liquid?
长出来的牙釉质，它的硬度和天然的牙釉质一样，而且我们用了相同的成分，所以可以说出和天然牙釉质一样的结构，跟本体几乎是一模。
Damn, I hope that's true. I hope it's real.
Of Justin Trudeau, him announcing that he will step aside once a new Liberal Party leader has been chosen. We are waiting for details of how that will unfold, but we can also tell you that Parliament has will be prorogued until March 24th, buying the Liberal Party some time to get that new leader in place. And we're standing by to hear from opposition leaders. The Bloc leader up first. We're going to hear from Jagmeet Singh at 1 o'clock, and we'll see whether Pierre Poilievre appears as well. I can't imagine he wouldn't have something to say on a day like this. And I'm going to go back to the CBC's David Cochrane to see what you're hearing. There are some words from potential leadership candidates floating out there already. Christy Clark, Mark Carney, congratulating the Prime Minister on his run and thanking him for their public service. That's what you should do, I would think, if you want to be a leader or a leadership candidate, yes, and you're trying to get the Liberal Party to like you.
It's interesting, though, before we move on to that, it's just thinking about what we just witnessed here, right? Mm-hmm. That a 3-election winning Prime Minister is leaving, because of internal unrest and external dissatisfaction. And it's just a reminder, Rosie, that political careers rarely end with joy.
Yep.
You're either defeated or it becomes so exhausting and untenable you leave. And, you know, you don't have a term limit system like in the United States where Barack Obama can win 2 terms and then
Peace
go
out,
off,
yeah.
you know, peace
Yeah.
out, because
Yeah.
it was a sort of, not on his terms, I guess, but on the constitutional terms.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good that Barack Obama was forced to leave office so that Donald Trump could win. that you know, that's a good argument in favor of term limits. It's like, hey, when was the last time America had a president serve more than 2 terms? FDR, you say? Oh, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the clear best president in American history. Oh, we don't like that. We don't like when the best president serves more time. Now, I'm not saying that I like Barack Obama, but the idea that it's a good thing to have term limits, it doesn't even make sense. Let's have a hypothetical. I'll disprove term limits very easily with a hypothetical. Imagine you have the best president ever in human history. They know how, they have perfect communication skills. They have incredible discernment. They're incorruptible. They appoint incorruptible people into the government. The economy is growing super fast, but it's growing in a broad-based way that's lowering income inequality. They're signing peace treaties left and right. They get a one-state solution in Israel-Palestine. You know, they're successfully creating world peace and economic prosperity, and every single one of their decisions is the most proper decision. Do you think that person should be forced out of office after 8 years? It's sort of like, why would we want to get rid of someone who's really good at the job? It doesn't make it. Would you want your doctor forced out of the position after 8 years? It doesn't make any sense. Ohio's term limits and the most corrupt legislature in the nation. Well, yeah, no shit. Because all that term limits do is they push the corruption directly, the power away from politicians to party apparatchiks. They push it away from the politician toward lobbying groups, because when you're a new politician, you don't know how to do politician shit. And so you listen to advice and build up your own independent sources of power. So you rely more heavily on pre-existing structures. What about the opposite? The worst leader you could imagine to infinity. Well, then the people vote him out because he's bad. See, the thing is, like with term limits, you shorten the terms of very good politicians, and you don't affect very bad politicians, because very bad politicians, like for example Joe Biden, get voted out of office. So all term limits do is they cap the upside. Very stupid policy. You wouldn't want term limits in any other area of your life. Imagine you had a head coach on your favorite sports ball team, and he won 8 championships in a row. Would you be like, well, we need to get rid of that asshole. We don't want him to have too much power. Like, what? Should term limits be on age? Absolutely not. If Bernie Sanders was 1,000 years old, I would rather have him in office than Cory Booker. If Bernie Sanders was doing the Dianne Feinstein, I'd rather have him in office than Beto O'Rourke. And that's because age has nothing to do with ideology. You know what I want? You know what I want in my politics? I want neoliberal limits. If you're a neoliberal, you're not allowed to become a politician. That's the politics. That's the term limits I want. If you're a neoliberal, term limit 0 years. What about the Supreme Court since it's not elected? Yes, that would make sense. Non-elected shit should not be permanent.
This is a much more different kind of thing, right? It's a result of a combination of...
Gun to your head, Joe Biden or Joe Rogan? Joe Rogan by 1,000. Joe Rogan by 1,000. It's not even close. All you would need to do is have Bernie Sanders talk to Joe Rogan with a DMT pen, and we get universal health care. Joe Rogan is going to actually have a few good policies. Joe Biden is guaranteed World War III. I mean, do you see what he's doing? He just gave $8 billion more to Israel. Joe Biden just gave $8 billion more to fucking Israel. Like, he's a lame duck now. He's a lame duck. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. He was defeated. He's out of office. He's got 2 weeks left in the White House. What is he doing? Pouring money to Israel, threatening Iran with airstrikes, giving medals of freedom to Hillary Clinton and the most evil and evil neoliberal bastards ever. He's inviting too raw, too real to the White House. This is what Joe Biden is doing in his last 2 weeks in office. I want to show you this. It's almost unbelievable how insane this is. Hold on, let me show you. This is Joe Biden. This is who Joe Biden invited to the White House.
All you fake ass Bernie, bro. Stop putting this big black woman with these yellow arms under my post. Fuck Rashida, bitch.
If you want to know who this woman is, she was a woman who was put in prison by Kamala Harris because of truancy, because her child missed school. That's who he's attacking. It's somebody who was put in prison for the truancy laws.
Woman with these yellow arms under my post. Fuck Rashida, bitch. I don't give a damn about this bitch.
I don't fuck with AOC. AOC can't do a motherfucking thing for me, but make me a goddamn martini, bitch. She can't do shit for me. She need to take her ass back to the motherfucking bartending days, bitch. She ain't done shit.
Fuck Bernie Sanders. Tell it in his old ass, busted ass face. Let him have another goddamn heart attack. I don't give a fuck if that hurts. 2 stents, bitch. 2. Fuck you, bitch. I don't give a fuck about this bitch. She ain't on the same motherfucking level as fucking Hillary Clinton. And last time I checked, Hillary Clinton was defending bitches like her. Last time I checked, bitch, she was defending bitches like you. Last time I checked, she was fighting for Muslim rights, bitch. I thought Bernie Sanders was anti-billionaire, but it's funny. Maybe it's because you guys have a lot in common, or maybe it's because the fact that you sucking his dick so hard that's why the bottom row of your fucking teeth are rotten, bitch. Ask motherfuckers in Detroit what the fuck Rashida did for them. Ask them. Her ass went to motherfucking Washington. She forgot about niggas. All she cared about was Palestine and immigration. She didn't give a fuck about black people.
By the way, Rashida Tlaib significantly outperformed Kamala Harris in Detroit by like 8 points.
Go hard for Kamala Harris, but I ain't heard nothing about this black agenda. Bitch, shut the fuck up! It's on that motherfucking website. Look it up! Hillary did more for black people than motherfuckers you can even fucking imagine. Fighting off segregation, going undercover, getting niggas out of jail in South Carolina. Shut the fuck up if you don't know! Tell me what the fuck Bernie did. Bernie is a fucking failure. How the fuck you get your motherfucking mouth to even say that shit, Bernie? Your ass ain't did shit. The worst motherfucking representation of what a woman's supposed to be in motherfucking Congress. I've never heard motherfucking Kamala Harris ever fucking complain. Remember, before this, you was just a bitch-ass bartender. Fuck AOC. Booing a bitch who fucking fought for your bitch ass. Who fought for women's rights before your motherfucking ass even got here, a bitch. Who the fuck are you, bitch? What the fuck you did, bitch? Your ass ain't did shit. Fuck you! Fuck you! You're full of shit! How dare you! How dare fucking you! Fuck you, Bernie!
I wonder if he got an FBI visit for wishing that Bernie Sanders would have a heart attack. I'm going to go ahead and say, no, he didn't. But if you say the same thing about Joe Biden, you know, if you were to say the similar things about Joe Biden, you would get that. This is who Joe Biden and the Democratic Party are. And here's the thing. A lot of people, when I say this stuff about the Democratic Party, people go like, oh, Mike, you're a radical leftist. Of course you hate the Democrats. And it's like, no, actually, I was a regular progressive Democrat in 2014, 2013. I ran for office as a progressive Democrat. And you know what made me radicalize to the left? Actually experiencing the Democratic Party from the inside. Number one, see how incompetent and stupid they were. Number two, how corrupt they were. And number three, how much they despised working people and unions and the working class and everything that made, made the Democratic Party what it is, and how they were the most disgusting elite pieces of trash, and they were stealing left and right. The amount of corruption I saw was unbelievable. And then I remember in 2015 when Bernie Sanders started to rise up, and I was like super attracted to Bernie Sanders' message. And that's what really made me, radicalize, is the experience of seeing what people in the Democratic Party were saying and doing to sabotage the left. And then I had my full and total radicalization took place in that context of the 2016 campaign, and seeing what people were doing behind the scenes, and just the way they scoffed and mocked young people, the way they scoffed and mocked poor people, the way they took money, the way they took cash, the way they were corrupt with the way they handed out envelopes of money in Philadelphia to buy local community leaders' endorsements. One of the methods is to do paid canvassing. So here's what you do, chat. You'll say like, I want to hire you to manage paid canvassing. And what it is you say like, okay, I want you to pay each paid canvasser $200 to knock doors. Here you go. Here's the pay for the canvassers. I gave it to you all in cash. Like this is the way of like handing out bribes to like community leaders in Philadelphia. This is the type of shit that the Democratic Party under Hillary Clinton was feasting on. And then they were so arrogant and they were so contemptuous of regular people. I remember we couldn't get. I was working for a representative, a candidate for state representative in Pennsylvania that year, and I was trying to work with the Hillary campaign to, work with the canvassing operations they had, the GOTV they had, and some like very like super Democrats were like, "Oh, we would like to get a Hillary sign," and they were like, "We don't give signs to you people. Buy one from the website." Meanwhile. And I was in a swing district, in a swing state, in a swing county in Pennsylvania. The most important, it's Northampton County, Pennsylvania. That's where I was in 2016. I was doing my political work in Northampton County, Pennsylvania. It is a Obama, Trump, Biden, Trump county. By the way, it swung back to Trump this year. I want to show you where it is. This is Northampton County right here. Okay, let me like find a place I can click. This right here is Northampton County. You see how it went for Trump 50.4 to Kamala Harris 48.6? This is one of the most important counties in Pennsylvania. And they wouldn't give out yard signs in 2016. They wouldn't knock doors there in 2016. They didn't want to listen to any criticisms in 2016. Oh my God, they got owned this hard in Luzerne. Oh my God, how bad was Erie? They barely won Center County? They barely won. Oh man, the Democrats lost Bucks. As what? They lost Bucks? This is supposed to be the headquarters of the moderate Republican. This is the Liz Cheney voter. I haven't even actually gone over the results this closely now that all the votes are in. They lost Bucks. They only got 51% in Allegheny, or Lehigh rather. Wow, that's crazy. She was a really bad candidate. Holy fucking bad. Holy shit. Like, you've been doing an Enzo dance for a month now. Why? What are we supposed to actually do? All I'm hearing from you is that we should yell at our local DSA chairs that we're right about everything. I didn't say that. It's literally January 6th. What do you want me to say?
Of external factors and really what was growing to be a potential full-blown caucus revolt. I mean, it was the most polite revolt I'd ever seen in terms of, we respectfully suggest you leave, and it built to this point. And now you're seeing, Christy Clark thanking him. You're seeing Mark Carney thanking him. We're waiting to hear from potential cabinet ministers. The full cabinet is going to meet at 3 o'clock Eastern time, by the way. There's supposed to be a meeting starting at around 12 to 1:30, I believe, of the Canada-U.S. Committee of Cabinet. So that's going to be an important group for the Prime Minister to speak with as they have 2 weeks to go until Donald Trump is inaugurated, and to deal with all of the implications of that. But it's going to be interesting to hear what the Liberal Party says today. We need to hear from the President. We need to hear from the Executive Board in terms of what they're planning to do and when we will know what they're going to do. Because this is not just an internal party thing right now. This is the process to pick for however long the next Prime Minister of Canada. And, we waited 3 weeks to hear the Prime Minister's response to Chrystia Freeland. I don't think we can wait 3 days even to hear what the Liberal Party of Canada has to say, because people are going to want some clarity on how the First Minister.
Oh my God, I just saw a tweet that I have to show you guys. China's purchasing power parity GDP is only 25% larger than that of the United States. Come on, people. Who are we kidding? Last year, China generated twice as much electricity as the United States, produced 12.6 times as much steel, and 22 times as much cement. China's shipyards accounted for over 50% of the world's output, while U.S. production was negligible. In 2023, China produced 30.2 million vehicles, almost 3 times more than the 10.6 million made in the United States. On the demand side, 26 million vehicles were sold in China last year, 68% more than the 15.5 million sold in the U.S. Chinese consumers bought 434 million smartphones, 3 times the 144 million sold in the U.S. As a country, China consumes twice as much meat and 8 times as much seafood as the U.S. I mean, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Like, China has already surpassed the United States. In everything that actually matters in material reality, China has surpassed the United States. The only thing they have now as a nation is to uplift and increase their own domestic consumption and to pivot themselves away from the remaining coal-fired power plants and the oil imports that they rely on to a fully electrified transit. But the thing is, China is actually doing that. If you look at the way China is actually treating the 21st century, they're the only country taking it seriously. The only one, except for maybe like Norway, right? China is building an all-electric transport network with electric high-speed rail, with electric metro stations and public transport, with highly dense walkable cities, and they are producing massive amounts of solar panels, windmills. They're investing in fusion power and fourth generation nuclear power. They want to build the largest dam in the history of the planet. They already have it now. They want to build an even bigger dam in the Tibetan highlands that's going to produce 4 times as much power from a single dam. This dam that China is planning to build will produce enough energy to power the entire United States. One dam. One hydroelectric dam they're planning to build is going to produce more electric power than the entire United States needs. Completely clean energy. Like, and they just announced it last week. What are we doing? What are we building? The U.S.'s GDP is totally inflated by fictitious capital through the financialization of industrial sectors, which are anti-productive extractive schemes set around fudging numbers for stockholders. It's not just that they're anti-productive, they actually block production. Because investment doesn't flow into industrial or other material investments. They flow to where they get the highest return. And the way to get the highest return in America is to invest in banks and rentier schemes. Who wants to build a factory? Do you know how annoying that is? You got to buy raw materials. You have to deal with regulators. You have to get through red tape. You have to hire employees. You have to pay people. Fuck that. I'd rather buy a bond. Buy me, give me a 7% return buying some stonks instead. Who wants to build a fucking factory? Mike on public transit. Oh, let me see this. This is what I want to talk about. This is what it looks like when a country has a strong government that actually takes care of its people and makes the people's standard of living a priority. Let's take a look at the Shenzhen Metro. Look at this metro, all built within the last 15 years. It has doors and walls to protect people from falling into the tracks.
It has over 7 million daily riders, 16 lines, 373 stations, and over 550 kilometers of track. More than the London Underground on every single metric. The line has an absolutely massive, nearly 2-kilometer long yard, which is topped with 50 high-rise apartment towers.
50?
Continuing.
Okay, LA has 816 high-rise buildings that are taller than 100 feet. So this one metro stop has 50. Just again, and there are 300 and what metro stops? Amazing. Here's the dump full of all the streetcars that LA used to have before it became traffic. All right, chat, this is the clips from PA channel. A brand new Mike from PA clipping channel that looks really good. What the fuck? This is the first time I've seen a clip made of me that was done really well. What the fuck? Everybody get in here. If you have a TikTok, go follow this channel. Start reacting. Traffic hell. Building one of these lines, one of them, anywhere in America would require federal intervention. And they're building them everywhere in China. They're building them in 40 different cities at the same time. Look at this station. Let's just stop for a second. This is the subway. It's bright, it's clean. This is for regular people to go to work.
An extension of Line 11, 3 stations east to Lohu.
They're getting 3 station expansions in a year. Oh my!
And finally,
the reason why I'm reacting like that is because it's just incomprehensible in America. I worked for the Committee of Urban Affairs in Pennsylvania. I cannot imagine that. That would be an impossibility. The idea that Philadelphia would be having a metro line that would be getting 3 new stations in a year is just incomprehensible. It's just not real. That would take 25 years in America. Minimum.
Southern extension of Line 16.
8 stations? Have there been 8 stations constructed in the entire United States of America last year? Were there 8 stations of metro expanded in the entire country last year? What is going on? Any one of these projects would be earth-shattering in the United States. And they're doing 8 of them at once. In one city. God, I have seen what you've done for others. You know what I mean? Jesus Christ. Okay, this is what it is in America. This is unbelievable. Voter approval 2016, planning 2021 to 2027. Why did it take 5 years to plan? To start the plan. I'm sorry for yelling, but like, do you see this? Like, 5 years to start the plan. The voters approved it, and then 5 years later they started to plan, which they were planning on planning for 6 years. So 11 years from the voters approving something to it even being planned. That doesn't include an ounce of design. 11 years of planning the plan and then planning. 11 years to plan. 11 years? We fought World War II and World War One. You stack World War One and World War II together, and that was shorter than the Everett Link extension plan. What are you talking about? This is why America is falling apart. I think that if you think this is acceptable, and I mean this wholeheartedly, you should go to prison. You should be in prison for this level of scam. I'm getting a new dog park, but it's going to get 3 to 5 years a dog park. I want to say this, and I'm going to say it clearly. A dog park is literally just an open area with a fence. You could build it in a weekend. You could build it in a weekend. 5 years? If I heard 5 years, I mean, like, what is going on? And yeah, I'm malding. Yeah, I'm yelling. Good. Somebody needs to yell. Everybody's just like, yeah, that makes sense. What? You throw down some sod. You build a fence. What takes so long? What are you talking about? Plan to plan. What? Planning takes 6 years? Then design is 2 more years. Then 6 years of construction. Open for service 2041. This is just an extension? I mean, like, that is absolutely unbelievable. Like, that is unbelievable. We spent $1 trillion on the military, and you can't build a fucking railway extension for 20 years? What the fuck are you talking about? Why do Americans accept this? Can someone explain to me why Americans accept this kind of fucking dysfunction and disaster? Like, what is going on? And by the way, chat, you should definitely go like Clips from PA. That seems really good. Also, Clips from PA, you should just message me on Discord, man, and we should just collab. We should just directly collaborate, because I really do admire your editing, and I think that you and I should just, like, you could make me a better streamer, and I could make you a better editor. I think if we collaborated, because we would have thoughtful things to say to each other. 1,500 Chinese workers build train station in 9 hours. Now, if you look at this and you're like, wow, I can't believe 1,500 people are working together. I mean, this is bare minimum shit. I mean, if you think about it, the only reason America has trains at all is because of China. It was literally Chinese immigrants who came and built our railroad, our transcontinental railroad. Without Chinese people, like, can white people even build railroads? Like, do we even know how? Wow, look at these incredible, look how mechanized it is as well. And also, look, chat, look at this. First of all, multiple tracks, parallel tracks, overhead. So this is an electrified rail. So they have the linemen working as they're putting in the tracks. America couldn't do this. It literally can't do this. It literally can't do this. Negative 50% to build time, China, yeah. I mean, it's already over. I think one of the things that makes me a little bit, I think why I'm a little bit more optimistic than a lot of people is it's already over. Like, China's going to be the next world superpower. And honestly, the way they're acting in the world is so much more benevolent than the United States ever acted. So it's already like, you know what? The US is already on the decline. Maybe, you know, Xi will come liberate us one day. You know, it is what it is. To you, when did it start being over? 2009. 2009 is when it was over. Because 2009, China and the United States, you know, we had the global financial crisis, and you know, Barack Obama was elected for change. If Barack Obama had come in and done a Green New Deal and invested in our infrastructure, and invested in green energy, and invested in high-speed rail, and invested in, you know, social housing, and had, you know, bailed out homeowners and regular people instead of the big banks. If he had come in and not done austerity, America, and, you know, he'd ended the wars overseas, it brought America back. That was the last time when, you know, the Democrats had 60 senators. They had, you know, a massive majority of the House. They had the White House. He was super popular personally. He was very persuasive, good communicator. But he just went in there and did austerity. He went in there and did neoliberalism. He went in there. And did you know Barack Obama literally had a meeting with Wall Street executives and hedge fund managers? And he said, I'm protecting you from the pitchforks. I'm protecting you from the pitchforks. And then he gave him $1 trillion, and I think it was 9 million people lost their homes. Maybe it was 13 million. I can't remember. How many Americans lost their homes in the Great Recession? I think it was like 9 million or 13 million, 10 million. Okay. 10 million nearly 10 million Americans lost their homes to foreclosure during the Great Recession between 2006 and 2014. 10 million Americans lost their homes, but Wall Street did really well. That's when America was over. You know what China did in 2009? China really dedicated themselves to building high-speed rail. They declared war on poverty and war on pollution. And in the 20 years since, they have massively succeeded. Like, it's just ridiculous. Because pollution in China used to be super, super bad. It's still not great. But here is from the University of Chicago. China's war against pollution extraordinarily successful. University of Chicago researchers. China's air pollution reductions account for more than 3/4 of the global decline in pollution since 2013. Lifting 800 million people out of poverty. New report looks at lessons from China's experience. China's battle against poverty has benefited the largest number of people in human history, said Minister Meng Zhuotang, Secretary of Party Leadership Group of the DRC. To stay poverty reduction gains, China will focus more on achieving endogenous development in areas that have lifted out of poverty and introduce vigorous measures to support rural revitalization. Our goal is to achieve common prosperity and high-quality development, including through the rural revitalization strategy on a focus in 5 key areas: industry development, human capital, culture, ecological environment, and local governance. China achieved its goal of poverty reduction in the new era as scheduled at the end of 2020. We have accomplished the arduous task of eliminating extreme poverty and made significant contributions to global poverty reduction. Going forward, China will continue to sustain and expand the gains in poverty alleviation and comprehensively realize rural revitalization. I mean, like, this is just pathetic. And like, I'm not even a China simp. So this is like, and one of the things, oh man, I saw a video on Twitter which specifically talked about the high-speed rail. Maybe it was on TikTok. And I wanted to show you guys just how bad it is. I'll figure it out. Anyway, what I'm trying to say here is, it's like the American system has just collapsed. It's incapable of doing anything. And the first lesson we need to know, damn, fuck. Costco plans to build apartments above its stores starting earlier this year. This would be the retailer's first U.S. residential complex with a built-in store. It would pay rent to thrive to reduce the developers' need for government subsidies. I mean, this makes perfect sense. Why not? Instead of having a fucking just worthless bunch of land sucked up just for commercial enterprise, why not fucking build apartments on top of these dumb fucking things? Who gives a shit?
You don't have to go to China to see a subway system exploding in size. 10 years ago, this American subway system had just 4 lines and would barely register in the minds of international transit connoisseurs. But then the system added 2 more lines in the 2010s and initiated plans for 3 more in the 2020s. Not to mention the
RM Transit is like considered a China simp just because they talk about China's rail, which is very funny to me. All right, chat. Let's do a little bit of fun. Hasan went on Raw Talk. Bradley agreeing with every anti-capitalist take. Hasan says that going around to say he is right-wing just shows how regular people are quicker to agree with the left-wing communist takes before knowing what they actually represent. It's not a communist take, bro. It's just normal. That's what communism is, Adam! You literally do believe in socialist and social democratic takes, bro. You've just been scared with the scary word. All right, let's do this, chat. Okay, Hasan exposes Ethan Klein. And this, ladies and gentlemen, and this is what I wish Hasan would do more. I want to see Hasan on more podcasts. I want to see Hasan making the circuit. If he wants to go on Joe Rogan, this is the way to get on Joe Rogan. The way to go on Joe Rogan is to do the podcast circuit. You can't just get on the Joe Rogan. I think that here's what's going to happen, chat. Donald Trump's going to go in there and he's going to start fucking things up. And the economy is starting to stutter. I don't know if it's going to crash within the next 4 years. I don't know if it's going to keep bubbling for the next 4 years. But if it does collapse when Donald Trump is president, he's going to be term limited out of office. The sky's the limit of what we could achieve. The left has got to be ready. We have got to be uncompromising. We must find a leader that is worthy of us and somebody that we could trust, but also somebody that we're going to be behind and not just be whining little bitches on social media. I don't know who that person is going to be. I saw you pop up on a repost on the H3 subreddit insinuating you're anti-Semitic. Yeah, they took a clip out of context. I recognize the guy from being basically at a CIA cutout, a CIA cutout organization, and they're implying that I was saying that it's because he's Jewish he's bad, which is ridiculous. I love my Jewish brothers and sisters. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Again, it doesn't even matter. Like, the false accusations of anti-Semitism don't work. You know, it's basically just to trip you up because we care about that kind of shit. We care about hate. We care about bigotry. They're calling for the destruction and genocide of Arabs openly. And then they're going like, oh, but you're anti-Semitic. Like, they care about bigotry. They don't care about bigotry. They lovingly spread it. These Zionist liars. So my opinion is, if you think I'm anti-Semitic, you're a fucking dope.
Oh, man. You got like the busiest guy ever right now.
I know.
Do you think you're more busy now than you've ever been?
No. Well, I mean, look, 2020, when I went full time Twitch streaming,
yeah,
I streamed 42% of the entire year.
Every time I see, you know, when they measure like streamers and hours watched,
yeah,
you're always up there. Like,
yeah.
But you stream like out of everyone, I think you're the most consistent streamer.
Yeah. Every day, baby. 11 a.m. Pacific time is when I start. And then I go to like...
By the way, consistency is key. I agree with this 100p. And I'm not a degenerate. Like, that's kind of one of my advantages as well, is because I've already lived that life. You know, I'm an old man. You know, I've already done all that shit. You know what I mean? Like, so the attraction for it, you know, and as you get older, it takes longer to recover. You know what I mean? I've done all that shit. So I go to bed at, you know, 11 p.m., 11:30 p.m. I wake up, you know, at 6:30, and then I do my fucking stream. Like an adult, at adult times. You know, it's great. Hasan built up the community, and every leftist streamer is benefiting from it now. I don't know if that was his plan all along, but I'm so thankful he did. I have been a Hasan viewer. When I started, this is what I want to show you something that's a little bit wild about Hasan and me. And you're going to find this really hard to believe, but it is crazy. Is that when I started streaming, look at Hasan. Let's go. I started streaming in August of 2019. Hasan's average viewers was 2453. In the last 90 days, I'm 3235. So I'm bigger now than Hasan was when I started streaming, which is fucking crazy. And like, that is wild. So we need to recalibrate what we think about viewership and things like that. And like, Hasan is largely the guy who helped make left-wing politics with an actual edge and not just like, I'm going to say this about Hasan. I respect Hasan so much more than almost every other online commentator. Because if you look at all of them, a lot of the people that are anywhere near a similar size to Hasan are Democratic Party tailing shills. Whereas Hasan leads with his ideas and his beliefs, and he tries to create political valiance and relevance from a core of his beliefs and his knowledge, as opposed to chasing the Democratic Party around like a fucking dog chasing a car. That's what I respect. Nobody else in the game is like that. Well, besides me.
8 p.m. usually.
And did you always talk about politics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I first started originally, I did it because I was at the Young Turks back then. And I was like, I want a place where I can just like have my own thing. Cause like working under somebody else, like they just do whatever they want. Right.
Yeah.
So that sucked. I wanted my own place where I can have my own community and say whatever the fuck I wanted.
Thank you,
But
theoretical.
I started playing Fortnite. I strapped a PS4 camera onto my PlayStation 4 at the time, and I started directly streaming from. You could directly broadcast on the PS4.
I remember.
So I started doing that, playing Fortnite, and I would like have my other like journalist friends on, and we'd be talking about like Israel, Palestine while playing Fortnite.
Back then.
Yeah, even back then, even like all the way back in like 2018. So then I switched over to the desktop, and and then I went full time in 2020, and here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we did that interview on your stream, like you were getting like off on that day, but you during the election process, you were getting like 200, 300,000 people watching. And I think it's, for me, I kind of said this to you when you came into the live stream in my gym, but it's really interesting to see the growth of people like you in this space, because it really highlights how powerful social media has become.
Yeah. Like it's wild. Like the numbers, especially in like key demographics, like originally the key demos that they care about used to be 18 to 35. They changed it because they were like, no 18 to 35-year-old watches TV.
Yeah.
So they went up to like 54. I think now it's like, they say like 25 to 54 or something is the new primary demo target for like TV ads. And even on that front, I'm like destroying most of the other TV networks.
Do you feel like, obviously you feel cool, but like, do you feel an obligation to kind of be a certain way? Like, do you because all your like, I feel like when I first saw clips of you way back in the day, like your takes were like way more based.
What do you mean?
Like, no, you just said some. I've just seen old clips of you saying crazy.
Oh, is it him? It's him from what he was from. It's from his bro talk. Is he talking about bro talk and trans shit? Is that what he's talking about? Like hitting on women? Bradley turned his entire career around bro tips. Hasan's like, what do you mean? I have no idea what you're talking about. I was never based.
Crazy or people will bring up, but not that they're not based now, but like you just have you felt like you had to be more left in like all your stuff?
No, if anything, I got more left now than I was back then.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Or well,
like you were more based
no,
then.
but not no. More left as in like I was more quote unquote woke, I think. Unless you're talking about like bro tip stuff, which is like way back in the day.
That's
what you're okay. When I was like, I look like Steven Crowder. Oh, God, it's so embarrassing.
Yo.
Not even like the embarrassing that I was trying to satirize, but like just the way I looked. That's from like 2013, I think.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do like a satirical bro show, but also
bro.
Like, try to crack jokes, but also like cover the news and stuff too. But very quickly, I was like, this is not like, this sucks.
Yeah.
And then we deleted them, and then people resurfaced them, and they always love bringing it up to be like, see, you used to say this. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty open about it. Like I definitely was like way more misogynistic. I used to definitely have transphobic takes.
Yeah.
Like, and
that's what I was referring to, because I saw that.
But that wasn't like, that wasn't because like I wanted to. Oh, okay, that's what you meant when you said base.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Bradley is the mild side of the manosphere, mass misogyny and masked. He also he gets into lawsuits with models whose accounts he tries to manage, and always approaches young women in his gym, offering to manage their social media. Why do women trust men? Okay, if you're a woman, I want you to go out and I want you to read Iceberg Slim. I want you to go out and read Iceberg Slim, and I want you to understand what men are like. They're disgusting pieces of shit. All right?
Hey, bye.
I mean, it is true. I legitimately do think liking straight men is the most perverted fetish. It's up there with the feet guys, okay? It's squat cobbler. It's that's the level you're on. So if you are a woman and you're at the gym and a bro comes up and says, "Let me manage your social media," the answer is no.
I didn't become more cognizant of like the media environment. Like I organically became less transphobic. I met trans people.
Men constitute 50% of the population. Women have too much pressure on them not to interact with humanity's most degenerate gender, men. Here's the thing. It's very funny because I'll say shit like this, obviously joking, and people will be like,
Mike is a misandrist. He's saying that all men are bad and he's self-hating man.
and it's like, no, dude, it's called a joke. Shut the fuck up, you dumb piece of shit. I'm just applying the same logic that men apply to women to men, which is men frequently will look at the most unhinged, crazy ass woman and go, women be doing this and unhinged shit. I'm just treating you the way you treat women. And that's why you're getting a little mad at yourself. That's what makes it fun, satirical shit. Because men have the position of power in our society. So what a man does, he's responsible for. I'm not responsible for what other men do, right? Other white men could go do shit. Nobody comes to me and goes, Mike, I can't believe that white men are doing blah, 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 blah. Like, that doesn't happen. So it's funny to do that a little bit because there's no stakes.
Started
when you're black, they do that shit to you. Yeah, because they're doing it because of your blackness, not because of your maleness.
Questioning why I care so much about trans people. That was like, I think that was one of the major things for me. It was like, what the f do I care about this? Like, I don't really understand why this is like something that I should even worry about. Like, whatever, let people do whatever they want. And I think that's like, that was the spark in my brain. But it wasn't like, it wasn't a deliberate attempt or anything. It was just like a organic thing.
Yeah, organic evolution.
Yeah. But in terms of like saying more left that I suspect people don't like.
I think one thing that I would suggest for Hasan is that people don't know what left wing means. And I suspect he's going to get into it, but people have no idea what left wing it means. You know what I mean? Like, they just don't know what that means. So when somebody says, oh, you're doing left, you'd be like, okay, what does that mean to you? What does left wing mean to you? And like, slow down the conversation and be like, I'm left wing, but I know what left wing actually means. What do you think it means? Or maybe not like what I know what it actually means. That's a little bit too confrontational. Just be like, what does left wing mean to you? Funny, lighthearted tweet to start the stream. Florida sees VPN demand surge by more than 1,000% after Pornhub blocked. They blocked Pornhub in Florida.
In terms of like, saying we shouldn't be involved in, bombing the global South and things like that. I think I'm much more.
But is that really a left take?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the OG left take.
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. They don't know what left means. Left is anti-war. Right wing is pro-war. Like, the fact that people don't understand this is crazy. Why is it the left take? Because the left wing doesn't believe in nation states. We believe that humanity is one species, one race, the human race, and that we should be we're trying to get to Star Trek future, basically. That's what left wing is trying to do. The left wing is trying to get to Star Trek future, post-scarcity, unified humanity, no war, no poverty, no disease, no famine. That's what the left is trying to do. The right says that's impossible. The hierarchies that exist for a good reason. That's basically the difference. What hierarchies? What systems? The right wing always defends whatever the system is now. When it was kings and queens, they said the king has divine right to rule. When it's a military dictatorship, they say the dictator must handle these extraordinary circumstances and bring the protection of the nation under his fatherly gaze. Not gaze, but gaze, look, his eye, under his eye. When it's a capitalist liberal democracy, it's, I love the founding fathers, I want to suck Benjamin Franklin's cock. Conservatives just defend whatever exists. That's what conserve means. It is the left that's trying to progress humanity through this stage of our evolution to a higher form.
I feel like everyone doesn't want war.
Yeah, well,
except obviously the people that benefit from it greatly.
Yeah, everyone doesn't want war, or at least like people claim that they don't want war. But you know who wants war? Politicians want war. So yeah, I think like there's a lot of people on the right and the left who are like, yeah, why the f are we giving like, let's say Israel $16 billion? Like, why can't we help homeless people, or why can't we fix the potholes on the streets? And that's a pretty normal position. It's just it's not reflected in either party, really. Democrats historically used to at least offer lip service to that sentiment, But post 9/11, both parties are like, no, we have to do war all the time, stupid.
But it just sucks because like the more I get into politics is because like I felt like in the last few years I just couldn't avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
The more I'm just like, does this ever really change? It just seems like a cycle of like, especially now with the not necessarily you specifically, but the
stupid cynicism versus smart cynicism. Chat. This is such a standard conversation. I've had this conversation so many fucking times in my life. This is like the apathetic bro / apathetic person take, which is like both parties are the exact same. Nothing can ever change. Does anything ever change? I just want to focus on my fun things that I like to focus on. And it's like, no, actually, everything that you think is fun used to not be allowed. And people had to fight their asses off to get it done. Like, people legitimately would lose their job for living with their girlfriend. That was called cohabitation. Let alone having premarital sex. Oh, that was a big no-no. Birth control, illegal. So, like, all the things that you kind of take for granted as, like, the good life used to be prescribed.
The social ecosystem that's created around now politics, where it's like anyone will say anything to get, some sort of sensational response, where it's like they can say something about whether it's trans people or gay people or black people or some racist thing. It's like,
yeah,
people do this now, and whether there's any ounce of merit to it, which in most cases there's zero, but it's like they do it now because the algorithm, the likes, the views.
For sure.
And Twitter's become a place where I'm like, man, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
Because I remember last time we talked, I was like, I love Twitter. I do love Twitter.
Yeah, I definitely, last time we talked, I definitely love Twitter too. More than I do now, for sure. Or unless you mean like last time we talked on my stream.
No.
Like the last time I was on your pod, back then I used to get quote unquote canceled all the time on Twitter.
Yeah.
But it was ultimately meaningless, but it was, I think, more fun.
Whatever happened, I don't know if you've ever spoken about this, so maybe I'm beating a dead horse here, but whatever happened with you and Ethan, like, because you guys had that show.
Okay, finally.
The Leftovers, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've talked about it a little bit. I'm sure he'll see this clip and get like really mad. But honestly, I think we just had like some, at the time, what I thought were minor disagreements. And I never really like paid attention to what he was saying.
About content?
No, about Israel.
Okay,
about Israel Palestine.
Yeah.
In the aftermath of October 7. But he'd always been like very pro Palestine.
But you guys stopped way before that.
No, we stopped.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What the
We stopped like around October. That's when we were like, we're not doing Leftovers anymore.
Okay.
So October 2023 is like, I think, one of the last episodes we did.
Yeah.
And initially, I think there was a lot of people that were very mad at Ethan, both in my community and also, more importantly, his own community, because he's very progressive.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that he cultivated in his audience were like not really with his takes. Like, they didn't really like it.
Yeah.
And I think because there was also anti-Semitism rising at the time, like, he saw that as a major point of concern, understandable. And I assume, I can't know what's in his mind, but I assume that he was like making the assertion that these people that were mad at him all the time weren't mad because they were seeing clips and making up their own minds, but mad for some other reason, either because they were anti-Semitic or because like someone was priming them to be mad at him. And since our communities had merged,
and that's right. Basically, Hasan is getting right at the core belief. So the core belief motivating Ethan is that me and Denims and Frogan and him and every lefty on the internet, we're going after him and we're telling our audiences to hate Ethan Klein. And that's not the case. Although I will say this, I was probably the person that was criticizing Ethan the most of everybody, where I was like, the reason why people don't like you, Ethan, is because of your takes, man. And eventually, Hasan literally told him that to his face. He's like, listen, if you're going to have the take that you're having, then you're going to have a lot of people criticize you because there's a genocide going on in Gaza. And everybody who denied the genocide, by the way, they've stopped denying it. They stopped talking about it. Remember when there was the Rafah red line? Remember that? Rafah is completely annihilated. All of Gaza has been leveled. Every hospital has been bombed. There was a big debate about one specific hospital and whether Israel was responsible for a strike that happened at a hospital a year ago. Well, guess what happened? Every hospital in Gaza has been bombed. Israel is now using hospitals as a base for their troops. So like the idea that Israel would never bomb a hospital has been so thoroughly discredited. But the people who argued that, they didn't go back and say, well, you know, it turns out that Israel does bomb hospitals. They just changed to let's attack Hasan as being an anti-Semite, because they're trying to change the subject from what Israel is doing in Gaza, which is an ethnic cleansing and a genocide. Or if you want to go by what the International Criminal Court said, they're doing persecution of Palestinians based on their race and nationality and their religion. Whether you call it genocide, whether you call it extermination, whether you call it persecution, they're committing crimes against humanity in Gaza. And nobody can deny that. So it has to be a distraction. And here's the thing about why we care about what Israel is doing. Number one, Israel is an ally of the United States. I oppose American allies committing atrocities. Number one. Number two, I believe in international law, and I believe that war crimes are bad, and I want to prevent them from being committed. And number three, America has given Israel over $300 billion in its history. My taxpayer dollars, your taxpayer dollars, American taxpayer dollars that could be better spent at home are growing to subsidize Israel's war. Joe Biden just announced an $8 billion more for Israel to kill more people. I don't agree with that, and I want it to be stopped. So that's why I care. And yes, I also care about Myanmar. I care about the Congo. I care about other oppressions that are happening by Saudi Arabia and Yemen. And I've talked about all of those things. But the reality is the United States is supporting, without a doubt, and whole hog, Israel diplomatically, militarily, financially, economically, socially. And that's fucking wrong. Deal with it.
At that time, because of leftovers to a certain degree, I think he thought that like my takes were what was causing people to like hate him for what he was saying. And because it's such a touchy subject for a lot of people for understandable reasons, I mean, people are very black and white. And when they hear Ethan say something that like, you know, Joe Biden has said about Israel, Palestine, and they don't investigate it any further, yeah, of course, they're going to be like, oh, fuck you, you're pro-Israel and you're hiding it. You know what I mean? That's like the immediate assertion. And for a year after that, I didn't really investigate what his perspective was. We had a conversation, like last one we had was on my channel, where we had a back and forth and we had some disagreements, but we were on good terms for a year after that, pretty much. And then recently, I forget what it was. I think it was after Israel like decided to invade Lebanon, where I was talking about Hezbollah, which is the militant group in Lebanon. It's the Shia militant group. It's a part of the parliament as well. It's classified by the American government as a state terrorist organization. Not every country considers them to be a state terrorist organization, and they're a part of the Lebanese parliament ultimately, right? Like they're a political party. Yeah, and they're effectively the standing military of Lebanon. But it is controversial ultimately, even within Lebanon. So I was talking to a friend of mine and I said something like, I don't have any problems with Hezbollah in terms of like their resistance to the state of Israel. I think like this isn't about their, you know, sectarian politics, or this isn't about like their internal affairs. Like I don't give a shit.
Right.
Because that's not the reason why Israel is bombing Lebanon. They're bombing Lebanon because Hezbollah is retaliating against Israel for what Israel's doing in Gaza.
Right.
And he saw that, and I think that was what triggered him into, like, that was a trigger point where he was like, you're a radical.
Ethan's perspective that Hasan and others were weaponizing their communities to be anti-Semitic was simple projection after he started working with Destiny to do the exact same thing, just in an Islamophobic way. I would say like the difference between like Destiny and Ethan and me and Hasan, as an example, is that Hasan and I are opposed to anti-Semitism, and we ban it, and we do everything we can to protect Jews in our communities, and we integrate Jewish members of our community, and they're our friends, and they have our full support, and we would never tolerate bigotry against Jewish people in our community. In Destiny's community, he's openly Islamophobic. He's openly called for the genocide of Palestinians. He's openly called for the ethnic cleansing of Arabs from the Middle East. And he has said that he's Islamophobic outright. And he promotes it and allows it within his community. So on the one hand, he's a self-avowed bigot, and we are against anti-Semitism. So there is no equivalency. They are bigots. Like Destiny specifically has admitted to being a Islamophobic bigot. That's period dot facts. So just on the like comparison, apples to apples comparison, we believe in human equality. We believe in pluralism. They don't. They believe in supremacy. That is the reality of where we're at right now. And, you know, I think that, you know, the reason that Ethan thinks it's okay to act that way is because, you know, I think it's rationalizations, but the rationalization that we're actually secretly anti-Semitic is supposedly a rationalization for them being openly Islamophobic and bigoted. And it's like, isn't that convenient for you to act in an aggressive way? And I've also talked about the psychology of Ethan and the narcissistic smear campaign. A narcissistic smear campaign is basically when a narcissist breaks up with someone, and especially when they don't feel like they're in control. When a narcissist breaks up with someone, they want to see that person fail. Like, they can't just like go their separate ways. What is a narcissistic smear campaign? A narcissistic smear campaign is when a person with narcissistic traits or narcissistic personality disorder uses manipulative tactics to attack someone's character. They often do this by spreading false or exaggerated information to mutual friends and acquaintances, family, colleagues, and online communities. The narcissistic goal. Oh, pizza. Thank you, VO. How are you feeling? Thank you for supporting a big streamer. We couldn't do it without you. It's very hard. And the narcissist's goal is to undermine the survivor's credibility and damage their reputation and relationships. This typically serves to elevate the narcissist's own status or to retaliate against perceived slights. This is all that's happening. So it's a combination of a political political vector to practice a narcissistic smear campaign. And you can like see this is what they do. You know, Hasan and I, how we feel toward Destiny and Ethan is like, they're not very bright. They're not very smart. They're not very good at this. I'm happy I've debated them a million quadrillion fucking times on substance. They've got a lot of skeletons in their closet that would be very funny to look at. But fundamentally, I don't give a shit about them. Fuck them. But if you flip it, it's about, you know, going after us and going on the attack. Narcissists may initiate smear campaigns anytime they feel shame or experience a perceived attack. A narcissist may attempt to ruin the credibility of an employee or employer in response to getting fired, a bad review, or perceived insult. For example, they may spread rumors about a colleague's incompetence or dishonesty to discredit them or sabotage their career. If a narcissist feels threatened by someone's actions, status, or mere presence, they may use a smear campaign to preemptively strike against those who they believe could expose their flaws or criticize them. That's what's happening.
And then it spiraled out of control. I think he has done numerous streams at that point, like for months and months on end, all the way up until the election where he was like trying to get me deplatformed.
This is what I was saying. That's why we spoke about being censored more.
Yeah.
For you. Because I saw that on like something with Twitch and people then blaming you for like ad revenue and like.
Yeah. That was another community that also has been always up my ass. This Destiny's community. And they've always done the concern trolling where they're like he'll say some unhinged all the time. Like he's debated child pornography. You know what I mean? Like he's debated
how do you debate
ethical
that?
CP. I don't know, but he's done it anyway.
Oh, if you want to know, Destiny basically argued that there could be a category that he called ethical child porn. And what Destiny wanted to do is he wanted to go to children who had been sexually abused on film and then ask when they became an adult, so right after they hit 18, he wanted to go and ask the 18-year-old, hey, I understand you were molested on film. Would you consent to us showing your child pornography abuse to pedophiles so that they wouldn't abuse real children? And he wanted to create what he called ethical CP so that there could be a category of like legal child porn that pedophiles could use as a tactic to try to prevent them from actually going out and abusing children. His logic being that they would masturbate to the child pornography and therefore they wouldn't feel like they had to go out and abuse children in real life. That was his theory. I think I'm steel manning it, right? Like I don't want to like feel like I'm just attacking him for no reason. Like I'm trying to give the steel man. Now, personally, there's no evidence that would work. In fact, there's evidence to the contrary that actually you know, giving pedophiles child pornography kind of like normalizes the behavior in their mind, and therefore like actually makes them more likely to offend. And then they want more child porn, so then they go out and they start purchasing it in the black market, which increases subsidization of the material. So there's just no evidence to support his argument at all.
You're not gonna play ball. I'm gonna call you a fucking loony leftist or whatever, or I'm gonna say you're a rhino, and then all my fucking diehard fans are gonna own you. Like they're gonna hate you, they're gonna despise you, they're never gonna vote for you again. And I think that way you create party unity, you force party unity to happen. Interesting. And that's why you can push your agenda. Democrats don't do that.
Oh fuck, I skipped
and
ahead
the
by
reason why they
accident.
don't do that is because they're ultimately right. Like they're a political party.
Yeah.
It's like they didn't really like it, or what was causing people to like hate him for what he was saying. And because and after that pretty much, and then recently I forget what it was, I think it was after Israel like decided to invade Lebanon, where I was talking about Hezbollah, which is the militant group in Lebanon. It's the Shia militant group. It's a part of the parliament as well. It's classified by the American government as a terror state terrorist organization. Not every country considers them to be a state terrorist organization, and they're a part of the Lebanese parliament ultimately, right? Like they're a political party.
Yeah.
And they're effectively the standing military of Lebanon. But it is controversial ultimately, even within Lebanon. So I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said something like, I don't have any problems with Hezbollah in terms of like their resistance to the state of Israel. I think like this isn't about their, sectarian politics, or this isn't about like their internal affairs. Like I don't give a shit.
Right.
Because that's not the reason why Israel is bombing Lebanon. They're bombing Lebanon because Hezbollah is retaliating against Israel for what Israel's doing in Gaza. And he saw that, and I think that was what triggered him into, like, that was a trigger point where he was like, you're a radical. And then it spiraled out of control. I think he has done numerous streams at that point, like for months and months on end, all the way up until the election where he was like trying to get me deplatformed.
This is what I was saying. That's why you
Personally, you'll never get me. With all due respect to Hasan, you'll never get me talking like that. Because even if you find it valid as an argument, you're close enough to the line of what America considers to just be criminal behavior. Or we can't, if you advocate for Al-Qaeda, they kill you. Like they have killed American citizens with drones. So like, even if you agree that Hezbollah has a legitimate right under international law, you have to be very careful because America will kill you.
We spoke about being censored more. For you, because I saw that on like something with Twitch, and people then blaming you for like ad revenue and like
that was another community that also has been always up my this Destiny's community. And they've always done the concern trolling where they're like he'll say some unhinged all the time, like he's debated child pornography, you know what I mean, like he's debated
how do you debate
ethical
that?
CP. I don't know, but he's done it anyway.
Normie Bradley saw the drama and noticed Ethan was being weird kind of proves everything you've been saying. Yeah, Hasan is winning the fight. Hasan is winning the fight of public perception. Surprise, surprise, people would rather be associated with Hasan than Ethan, Klein, and Destiny. I'm sure everybody's shocked right now.
Like these guys don't have any boundaries, right? But then they will so very easily portray themselves like liberals who are concerned. And they do that very well. So they started this like mass emailing campaign in their Discord to like openly, actively brigade everywhere and take like a year's worth of clips that they had clipped out of context for one whole year. Like Israel starts bombing Gaza and these motherfuckers are like, all right, what's Hasan saying? Let's start clipping.
Yeah.
And they had it on a website called like Hamas Abi. They're calling me like Hamas Abi.
Yeah.
And they just had all these clips and they were like they spent spam emails to like advertisers. Like I went to USC because they wanted me to speak at the college.
Yeah.
And I was like, sure, I'll do it. Why not? They sent 27,000 emails to USC to try to get me and not speak at USC. And it's really interesting because like in the email, I saw the email that they were spamming, and the email was like, he got banned off Twitch for saying a racial slur, which is true. I did.
What was the slur?
Cracker.
Oh.
But they didn't put that in the email. So they were trying to make it seem like I was this like crazy racist guy, right? And you know, it's a fairly sophisticated mass brigading campaign.
Not a real one, then.
And it didn't really work, but they got some advertisers, I think, like were scared. Bloomberg wrote a report on it.
Yeah.
Some advertisers were like, well, we don't want to be associated with anything that's controversial. And but at the time they were like claiming that, you know, every advertiser is pulling out of Twitch. Twitch is having an adpocalypse. And Ethan at that same time was also like, you know, kind of egging that on a little bit, where he was like, these guys are really anti-Semitic. They're really radical. They're anti-American scum. That
But I
sort
don't
of
understand
stuff.
this anti-Semitic conversation is like, if you just say anything that's against what they're doing in Israel, just you're anti-Semitic.
Yeah, I mean, there's more nuance to it than that, because like
that's what it, from my perspective from the outside, it's what it looks like when I see stuff.
No,
I'm like,
I understand that. I mean, that's like the average position at this point.
Yep, that's basically what it is. If you criticize Israel, you're an anti-Semite, according to these people. But you're allowed to criticize America, but not Israel. In America, I have a First Amendment right. I get to criticize Israel.
And I think that, yes, it is, for the longest time, Israel, both positively and negatively, has been associated with Judaism. It's not a proper conflation. It's false. Saudi Arabia, it does not represent like the entirety of Islam, and Israel does not represent the entirety of Judaism.
Right.
But if every single person that goes on television is saying like, this is the Jewish nation, like, how dare you, you're being anti-Semitic, then yeah, of course people go, okay, maybe it is. Maybe everything they're doing for Judaism, and all the Jews love this, when it's not the case.
Right.
I mean, there's like a classic old Jewish saying, it's like 2 Jews, 3 arguments, where it's like, there's no full-blown comprehensive monolithic understanding of what Israel is and what it's supposed to be among American Jews, especially. That's not like a real collective ideal at all. But it's presented that way. It's presented.
The thing about Destiny's community is they're very comfortable using botnets. They're very comfortable using like botted accounts. They're very comfortable using fake email spamming. They're very comfortable using like gray or even illegal cyber, like hacking accounts and things like that. Very comfortable doing like crimes, basically.
That way by people who hate Jews, who want to say, fuck Israel, they're doing this for Jews, this is how Jews are. And it's also being said by people who are pro-Israel and also themselves Jewish, or just pro-Israel and pro-Jewish. Like Jake Tapper says that. Like, I don't think Jake Tapper is secretly a neo-Nazi or something, but he's saying that because it's been a very apt way to deflect criticism, because nobody wants to be offensive, especially in progressive circles. You don't want to be offensive. You don't want to be a mean person. You don't want to offend people. You don't want to be called an anti-Semite. So you're like, whoa, okay, I didn't realize it was like that. It's usually just a way to stop the conversation dead in its tracks.
But so that's interesting though. That's like an interesting point where like why would certain conversations need to be just killed dead in their tracks?
Well, because I mean, it's kindness first and foremost. It's because people don't want to be a fucking asshole. I don't want to be an asshole, even though I am, right? But I think that's where it comes from. You don't want to be like a rude person. Maybe you do. I don't know. But most people, I think, don't want to be impolite. And if they don't have all the information, then yeah, they're going to trust you. They're going to take your word for it. If someone that you trust and like tells you Israel is the Jewish nation state, no Jew would ever be safe if it wasn't for Israel, which Joe Biden has said,
Yeah.
When someone that you trust says that, you're going to be like, okay, well, I guess that's the case then. I'm not going to think about it any further. I don't fucking know. It's a country over there, far away from me. So most people just don't really think about it any further.
Yeah.
And then don't necessarily try to understand the full dynamic of the situation.
Yeah. As far as I guess it's interesting to me because you sort of had this like falling out with, not necessarily falling out, but you had this falling out issue. Whatever you just basically explained with Ethan.
Yeah.
And like the left sort of commentating because you didn't agree with what they were saying. It kind of comes to what's going on right now with the right. It's really interesting to watch. But this whole conversation about the H-1B visas and like
Yeah.
Elon Musk talking on Twitter and Vivek Ramaswamy talking on Twitter and all these people like chiming in and kind of like somewhat attacking each other. And I know you're enjoying that.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love when right wing infighting happens because it's like it's rare. The left loves eating itself alive.
Yeah,
I mean, I get canceled all the time. It's not fucking real, but
right.
People yell at me all the time. They call me misogynistic, transphobic, racist, white supremacist, and then on the
And they're not just Islamophobe, but also anti-Semites themselves. Ethan's comments on Hasidic Jews, deplatforming neo-Nazi Holocaust deniers, and don't give a fuck about anti-Semitism, just anti-Zionism. It isn't just that Destiny platforms anti-Semites. Like, I don't think there's a problem with like debating and humiliating a right-winger. Like, I don't think that's a problem unless you're doing consistently bringing very small Nazis up and helping them grow, which he did do. He admitted to helping Nick Fuentes grow. The problem is that Destiny is friendly to and solicitous of Nazis. Like, he had a sexual relationship with Lauren Southern, apparently. There is rumors that he had a sexual relationship with Nick Fuentes, another Nazi. He was very friendly with what's that other fucking guy? He looks like he's a Nazi doctor in the concentration camp. Sam Hyde. He was sucking up to Sam Hyde. Like like Destiny absolutely adores Nazis. I mean, he was on, what is that, the Ralph Report? Well, there was like another Nazi he was like friendly with, Fresh and Fit. He was all over Fresh and Fit for a year on his blue hair while they screamed at him as a cuck. And he'd be like, look at my marriage. It proves that open relationships work. And then he immediately gets divorced and pantsed in front of the entire fucking world. So it's like, yeah, no, he is very comfortable with anti-Semitism in his community.
On the other side, everyone on the right calls me a pussy, soy for fucking defending marginalized people. You know what I mean? So, but the left loves doing that shit to itself. The right normally is pretty unified.
Yeah.
They're like, it almost feels like, as long as we're fucking owning the libs, whatever that is, we're good. We're good. We're on board.
So it's come from what? Basically the base, the Republican base for the most part, speaking
Destiny
out on
loves
behalf
Ben
and
Shapiro,
kind of
that too.
seemingly or believing they're voting for basically a group of Republicans that are going to make America and put America first, right?
Uh-huh.
And then it's interesting because then Elon is basically saying like, yeah, we need these foreign workers. It's been a thing. And then everyone's attacking him because they're like, wait, what about all the people who, could have or could get the jobs here?
It's a tough argument to sell to people on Twitter, especially when you got hundreds of thousands of tech layoffs and you got American workers like training their H-1B visa foreign counterparts. I'm an advocate for immigration. There's enough money to go around, certainly. And, there's endless potential everywhere, whether it's coming from India, China, or whether it's coming from an underserved neighborhood in the United States of America, whether it be some fucking West Virginia slum or Southside Chicago. There's a lot of unlimited potential out there that we have not even tapped into. So I don't necessarily care about those sorts of things, like in terms of immigrants coming in. I'm a fucking immigrant. You know what I mean? I'm an American citizen. I'm an anchor baby, but my father recently became an American citizen. So
my family would have been immigrants, so.
What?
I'm Italian, so they came and they were immigrants.
Well, there you go. So, but that's everybody. Everybody in America is, unless you're Native American, you can trace your lineage back to a point where you weren't on this fucking continent.
Right.
So, and there's always historically been resistance against newcomers anyway. When Italians came in, they were treated like shit. When the Irish came in, they were treated like shit. It's always resistance towards whoever's coming in. That the people that are there already are like, nah, fuck these guys.
Yeah.
And then, after some time passes, there's some growing pains. And then people are like, all right, never mind. These guys are cool. It's fine.
Yeah.
And you don't even think about it now. Like it's not even a thing. If you were to be like, yeah, the Irish are not white, people look at you like, what the fuck are you saying?
Yeah.
So that's normal, and it's historically happened in America over and over again. And right now it's happening towards people coming in from Latin America, and also certainly now for the Twitter people.
India.
Yeah. But on the other hand, the reason why Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy want H-1B visa workers is because they can exploit them better.
Lower wages, right?
Yeah.
I was looking all over Twitter. You see all the sort of the people in Tesla, the people who they have like lists and lists of people who are these H-1B visa workers that are, I guess, I mean, I see the salaries, they're large, but apparently they'd be more large.
Yeah, no, it'd be at the minimum is like 20% cheaper.
And I understand, obviously,
because there's a currency exchange, right? If you're sending money back to your family and you come from a country where there's like a currency exchange rate that favors, the American dollar,
right?
That's automatically, you're like, yeah, I'll take a 20% pay cut. I don't give a fuck. And on top of that, you get to work towards earning a citizenship in the United States of America. Maybe bring your family here. So yeah, you're going to be very excited at the prospect, but more importantly, it's an additional pressure. Because if you lose your job,
you have to
then
go
you're
back.
you're done. Yeah. You're out. You're deported. Meanwhile, there is already pre-existing pressures for American citizens to retain those jobs as well.
Right.
What do we?
All right, chat. I just saw an article. I just read an article that is, as I was listening to Hasan talking about politics. All in all, I just want to close out this segment by saying Ethan Klein is like, he's on the Destiny spiral of irrelevance, which is basically Destiny's community is a drama parasite community. And the way that Destiny gets attention is by just glomming on to whatever drama he can. Okay. And what ends up happening is when he brings in somebody in his orbit, they get sucked dry and then he leaves them a withered husk. And that's what's happening to Ethan. And, I think Ethan understands that if you were to just cut it out, and he would go hat in hand to Hasan and apologize, that things would probably be okay. But he feels like he can't do it because genocide is still going on in Gaza. So basically he's got to wait around, continuing to spiral until Israel finally decides they've killed enough kids. And then suddenly everybody's going to realize like, oh yeah, I was against that. I was against that the whole time. It was Netanyahu's fault. That's what all these fucking scumbags are going to do. So let's take a look at this article, because I want to read you an article about reality. And the reality is that the United States of America is not the world's superpower anymore. This article lets you know this is reality. And we're going to read this. It's not very long. But if sometimes people are like, Mike, how do you avoid getting like so depressed about the state of the world? It's like, well, I actually understand the state of the world. And that is, as America installs Republicans into power, America is falling in relevance and importance and in relative power. It's no longer going to dictate the 21st century. It's already too late. What's the real size of China's economy? World Bank's latest purchasing power parity GDP survey shows China edging up slightly on the US, but the measure widely misses the mark. In May, the World Bank concluded one of its periodic international comparison program assessments, the price survey, which officially determines purchasing power parity GDP. Like college rankings, the league table of the world's largest economies shifted just enough for the obsessives to notice while springing no real surprises. Harvard will be Harvard. Whether Princeton ranks above or below Yale this year is largely irrelevant. For the obsessives, China's lead versus the US expanded by 5.6%. India inched closer to China. Japan kept its ranking while sliding down a tick. Russia moved ahead of Germany. France ahead of the UK. Indonesia tumbled 2 places, and Brazil rose 1 spot. The top 10 remain the top 10. While Russia fans can beat their chest over a 13% increase in PPP GDP, and the British may fret about dropping out of the top 10, all said, the latest ICP did not produce any remarkable revelations, nor should it have. Periodic pricing surveys are necessary to calibrate and maintain the accuracy of PPP adjustments. That's purchasing power parity, chat. It's a way of measuring the economy. Yeah, we talked about that already, socialist scientists. However, if they result in significant shifts, either too much time has elapsed between surveys or methodologies have broken down. The ICP is a massive undertaking. According to The Economist, World Bank researchers visited 16,000 shops in China alone to collect price data. The latest ICP assessment collected data in 2021, 4 years after the 2017 survey. And the conclusion is that China's GDP was undervalued by $1.4 trillion, pushing China's 2022 PPP GDP from 119% of the US to 125% of the US. According to The Economist, China's National Bureau of Statistics was not impressed, downplaying the results, stating, "We need to interpret the results with caution and correctly grasp the global economic landscape and the status of each economy in it," while stressing that China remained a developing economy. If the MBS did not like such a modest upward adjustment to Chinese PPP GDP, it will surely hate the rest of this article. China's PPP GDP is only 25% larger than that of the US? Come on, people. Who are we kidding? Last year, China generated twice as much electricity as the United States, produced 12.6 times as much steel, and 22 times as much cement. China's shipyards accounted for over 50% of the world's output, while U.S. production was negligible. In 2023, China produced 30.2 million vehicles, almost 3 times more than the 10.6 million made in the United States. On the demand side, 26 million vehicles were sold in China last year, 68% more than the 15.5 million sold in the U.S. Chinese consumers bought 434 million smartphones, 3 times the 144 million sold in the U.S. As a country, China consumes twice as much meat and 8 times as much seafood as the U.S. Chinese shoppers spent twice as much on luxury goods as American shoppers. They produce all that steel but refuse to use it in their concrete, i.e. tofu drag project. Tofu drag is actually just a lie. It's not real. You understand that, right? The videos that you're seeing that say about tofu drag, they're about a single project collapse that happened, I think, in 2008, and it's spread by a cult called the Falun Gong. I'll show you what I mean. I'll just search tofu drag. So this guy right here, David Zhang. There you go. Top result. Look at the project you're seeing here.
Tofu drag construction, China's poorly constructed buildings made with foundation and building materials that are poorly mixed due to a lack of funding. That's because the project lead and management swallowed up money due to rampant corruption and graft. It's an ongoing issue in China. The result is dangerous living quarters and infrastructure that are prone to collapse, like bridges, roads.
Okay, you see this bill. So this was published a year ago. Here's an example. He shows a tower collapse, right? Let me see if I can find this. I think it's like 2008. What year was this? Damn, what building is it?
And buildings. In 2008, an 8.0 magnitude earthquake took many buildings under, including hundreds of school buildings, and many were tofu.
Okay, I think I found it. It was 2009. So if tofu drag is so common in the poor country, why is this same fucking picture being promoted by the Falun Gong? The same building 16 years later. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? And you don't think that there's I mean, they pour, as I said before, so much more. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like you could only believe it if you're stupid. Like if you actually don't know what China looks like, if you haven't actually been, or just aware of reality. Meanwhile, we have collapses happening all the time in the United States. We had an apartment collapse in Miami. We had like multiple apartment collapses in the past 2 years in the US. It's just one of those things that you're told that it's called Orientalism. Basically, the Falun Gong is a far-right cult that was banned in China, and they're insane. And they're behind something called Epoch Times, and they promote a bunch of like misinformation about, and they have a leader who's like who says he's the return of Jesus Christ. Like, this is who you're listening to for your takes on China. Like, can you please get aware of, like, get a little bit more skeptical of the sources? Meanwhile, I'm looking at fucking the, like, 16,000 shops being visited in person by Westerners. And you're comparing it to a YouTube video you found.
First look at a $1.8 million house. Check out this shit. Why is it so easy to move on these cool stairs? Beautiful oven.
Guess I forgot to install it. Right?
Door from the primary into the bathroom, and it's not even a soft closed door. 1.8. Cool floating sink and a neat mirror. Why doesn't it go all the way to the ceiling? Never mind, when you're taking a shit, you're gonna hear it in here because I bet there's no insulation in this wall. Why isn't that over there somewhere?
Wiggle, 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 yeah. Wiggle, 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 yeah.
Can we talk about this bathtub real quick? I don't know if that's gonna work, but this thing's very small. Okay. Who's taking a bath in this? This is the drain. The overflow is right here at my knees. Craftily thought out designs. Full paint coverage. Look at that hole to the attic where stuff is falling out. Why isn't there any drywall here? They cut it out. Well, it's a good dog. Oh, I think these are really cool, right?
Bouncy.
Oh. Wrong. Hey, yo, let me get some of that carbon monoxide poisoning through the garage door, yeah. What is this water doing here? Man, I sure would like to turn the lights on in this kitchen. How can I do that? Are there any light switches anywhere here that will help me turn the lights on in the kitchen? Not these. That's the dining room and outside. Maybe there's one near the side of the kitchen. Who knows? Does this one turn on the lights in the kitchen? No, this is for the wine. Oh, it must be these. These are the only lights to turn on all the lights in the kitchen.
Yeah, see, but that doesn't mean anything about America. Shut up. On the demand side, 26 million vehicles sold in China last year, 68% more than the 15.5 million sold in the US. Chinese customers bought 434 million smartphones, 3 times the 144 million sold in the US. As a country, China consumes twice as much meat, 8 times as much seafood as the US. Chinese shoppers spend twice as much on luxury goods as American shoppers. In 2023, Chinese travelers took 620 million flights, 25% fewer than the 819 million flights taken by Americans. But Chinese travelers took 3 billion trips on high-speed rail and 685 million on traditional rail, significantly more than the 28 million Amtrak trips. They took 3 billion trips on high-speed rail. Must be nice. With the exception of luxury goods, all of the above are volume or unit measurements and need to be adjusted for quality features to be comparable apple to apple. It would be highly presumptuous of us to discount the 60,000 shop visits conducted by the World Bank and accuse them of grossly lowballing China's PPP GDP. But that's exactly what we're going to do. It is prima facie ridiculous that China's production and consumption at multiples of US levels can be realistically discounted for lower quality features to arrive at a mere 125% of US PPP GDP. It's not that we think the World Bank has done a bad job. It's that we believe China's NBS, contrary to popular opinion, has been lowballing GDP for decades, and the World Bank has to work within the confines of the NBS's reported data. So what they're saying here is, actually, China's communist government is undercounting their actual economy. They're saying that the Chinese statistical data, the National Bureau of Statistics in China, is actually lowballing China. Prima facie is trying too hard? Nah, that's like the most common Latin phrase in the entire English language. This was politically important decades ago for WTO concessions, and is politically important today to maintain developing economy status as China makes a play for leadership of the global south. We believe China's GDP and PPP GDP are lowballed by incomplete transition from the material product system of national accounts, which excludes services by design. The World Bank is likely dutifully doing its sums with goods consumption in China multiples of the US, but measuring services consumption as a fraction of the US. The United Nations system of national accounts provides voluntary guidelines and specifically states that nations should base their national accounts on local conditions. What that has meant in the West is to adopt all UN SNA innovations introduced over the years. Items like imputed rent, legal fees, and research and development are now all included in GDP. The UK went hog wild with both illegal drugs and prostitution as now part of their GDP because, hey, why not? UN SNA's 2008 guidelines explicitly recommend that illegal market activity should be included in GDP. So in other words, what they're saying here is Western GDP is actually not growing as much because they're just counting shit that actually doesn't increase the gross national product. Like imputed rent is actually not rent that's being paid. It's what rent you would have paid if you were paying rent. It's actually the American economy grew tremendously because if all the people who own their own home didn't actually own their own home, they'd be paying a lot more in rent. What? And they're including the black market. The UK is including an estimate of the black market going, look at how much our GDP grew. We sold $1 billion more of cocaine this year. Yeah. China's NBS stood its ground on a conceptual level. Rightly or wrongly, the Leninist MPS considers services necessary costs of material production rather than real value creation. Basically, what they're saying here is that the communists are like, if I give you a foot rub, I haven't actually improved the material conditions of society. If anything, I've consumed the lotion. So I've actually reduced the wealth of society. I've consumed the wealth of society. In America, they say, that foot rub, you just raised our GDP. So it's a different way of looking at it. I tend to agree with the communists. It's not that foot rubs aren't bad. It's not that the services of providing the foot rub is something that's not desirable. It's just that society isn't being permanently or substantially enriched by that foot rub. In China's first attempt at converting MPS to SNA in 1985, it tacked on a ludicrously low 13% to the MPS number and called it China's services GDP. Over the years, the World Bank has twisted the arm of the NBS for modest increases to China's services GDP with limited success. The affordability crisis in Western economies, the US in particular, is largely driven by inflation of necessary services, rent, healthcare, education, childcare, not by manufactured goods. While these costs have also gone up in China, they have increased less and are much left out of GDP anyway. Also not captured by the ICP survey conducted in 2021 are the price and service wars that have broken out across industries and products. A bane on businesses, but a boon for consumers. What they're saying is that Chinese services are better than American services. Like, for example, if you go to get a massage in China, it's going to be by a much more qualified massage therapist with a degree than it is in America when you get a rub and tug. So what they're saying is the services quality is actually even better in China. So the Chinese, they not only do they cost less as far as nominal price, the quality you get is a hell of a lot better in China. That's what they're saying. This is most visible in China's car market, with OEMs either cutting prices to the bone. Hyundai Sonatas are down $17,000 from $42,000. We're offering cutting-edge technology for peanuts, a 2,000 kilometer range BYD Q plug-in hybrid electric vehicle for $14,000. The price of solar panels fell 50% in 2023. It continues to trend down in 2024. CATL has announced plans to cut lithium-ion battery prices by half by the end of 2024. Restaurants are offering white glove perks like hot towels, lotion by the sink, and snazzy remodeled decors. Hairdressers hand out bottled water and fruit plates. Tech companies have slashed large language model prices to basically free. Service quality in China, impossible to quantify, is now head and shoulders above the West and probably even Japan. Adherence to the UN SNA has caused a breakdown in the meaning of GDP. As necessary services become an ever larger share of Western economies, their growth does not appear to result in discernible improvements in living standards. No fucking shit. Wow, is the insurance company making more money, not making our lived environment better? Who could have said? Who could have seen that coming? Is United Healthcare making another $1 trillion? Wow, I can't believe it hasn't resulted in life expectancy going up. Are US healthcare and universities twice as good as they were in the year 2000? Question for the chat. Who here, raise your hand if you think US healthcare and universities are twice as good as they were 25 years ago. Nobody? Nobody's raising their hand? Nobody? If US households have not gotten vastly improved healthcare, education, housing, and childcare over the past 2 decades, that inflation has been systematically underreported and GDP growth may have, in fact, been less than 1% per annum instead of 2%, which equals stagnation given that 0.8% per annum population growth. And this is what I believe is true. This is why I wanted to read you this article. I actually think this is, I think America has been stagnant for 20 years. I don't think America's living conditions have improved in 20 years. I think our country is in absolute stagnation, and the only reason we don't think so is because of basically what amounts to funky Hollywood accounting. I just graduated with my bachelor's in August 2020. I feel like I didn't get much out of it. Can't get my job in my field either. It's depressing. Keep it up, man. I'm sorry to hear you're struggling. But I graduated college in December of 2008. So imagine how I felt.
On China's high-speed train right now, and this is one of the most luxurious cabin you've ever seen.
I don't know what it is. It's like such a beautiful parlor.
Nobody is riding with me, so I can have this room all to myself. I could just sit here all day and do nothing, pondering on myself. You know, I have a lot of things to think about. You know what we can do here? We can literally do hide and seek over here because it's so spacious. Guys, I don't know about you, but I enjoy having a wardrobe in a train. And if you find it too suffocating, you can just get outside to the aisle and have a seat. Even the conductors are more beautiful in this area. Can you believe it? 哎，问你们一个问题啊，椰子和榴莲打头哪个比较痛？那肯定是头痛啊。So smart people. I hate to say this, but they're tremendously smarter than American flight attendants. Look what I found. 人民铁道. I need to read that.
People's Railway.
Beautiful, beautiful sunset. All right, guys, I'm gonna take a nap. A little bit tired, so lights out time. Okay, goodbye. Let's go to sleep. 睡觉了，睡觉了. Folks, I'm on China.
Wouldn't it be nice to have a high-speed rail system where you could get a private room, take a nap? China's material-focused GDP may be a better measure of the economy as it relates to living standards. You don't say. Are the Marxists right? Are the Marxists right? May be a better measure of the economy as it relates to living standards, especially since the UNSNA has obviously lost its mind by officially recommending drugs, prostitution, illegal gambling, and theft be included in GDP.
There's been tremendous growth in OnlyFans. We've got to include the OnlyFans growth. If we don't include OnlyFans, then America's economy will be in the ditch. We've got to include the shoplifters. We've had crime like you've never seen. That's why our GDP is going up. And everybody, you better start getting on stake.com for your illegal crypto gambling. Otherwise, America's getting in the ditch.
Our country is a fucking shithole. Like, legitimately a shithole. Western defense analysts are onto something when they come up with wildly inflated estimates for China's defense spending, but it's not China's defense spending that is lowballed. It is Western defense spending, especially by the Pentagon, which needs to be reassessed. Somehow, the $1 trillion a year the U.S. devotes to defense, including intelligence and energy department programs, has caused the U.S. Navy to shrink, while China's $236 billion budget has built the world's largest navy by ship count. Similarly, analysts who lament that China accounts for 30% of the world's manufacturing output, but only 13% of household consumption, are far off the mark. China accounts for 20 to 40% of global demand for just about every consumer product, but much of the services it consumes have been left out of the national accounts. So how much is it? How big is China's economy really? About 6 months ago, this writer estimated that China's GDP needed to be grossed up by 25 to 40% to be on a UNSNA basis. What they're saying here is that China already is a much larger economy than the United States of America. Like, already, significantly bigger. But after shopping for cars, buying a domestic brand carbon fiber road bike with all the bells and whistles for $2,600, equivalent to a $15,000 Trek, paying $7.65 for a Bluetooth earphones, which were much better than the 250 Powerbeats Pro they've replaced, renting cars for $20 a day, staying at boutique hotels for $30 a night, buying an extremely solid heavy-duty umbrella for $220 and losing it right away, and undergoing an unfortunate series of medical interventions, both major and minor, for less than the deductible on expat health insurance, and getting white-glove consumer service for the smallest of purchases, Hans Fizzle's mental map of price and value has crumbled. No, the ICP did not do a lousy job. They were hamstrung by the initial conditions that the China's NBS subjected them to, and the data released in 2024 was taken in 2021. Ancient history in China. The recent ICP adjustment of a few percentage points in China's PPP GDP relative to the US elicited consternation from the NBS. But the reality is an accurate adjustment would be a multiple or two. So in other words, the US is collapsing. If you actually measure things competently, the US is in full-blown stagnation mode, and China is significantly larger than us. I think a lot of Americans, when they see stuff like this, you know what the result I get? You know what the number one answer I get when I talk about this kind of information from normie type people? The number one thing I get from normie type people is China's they're cooking their books. It's fake. It's not real. It's all lies. They're just cooking their books. The Communist Party is lying. You trust the communists. That's propaganda. U.S. Commerce Secretary acknowledges sanctions on China's chip industry are mere speed bumps, and the U.S. needs them. It's a fucking jover, man. It's over. Like, Biden's programs were complete failures. There's basically no charging stations. They spent billions of dollars to get like 20 charging stations. Like, it's jover. It's fucking jover. All the neoliberal subsidies didn't work.
Many people in Canada love being the 51st state. 2,000 retruths.
Before you go, please check my logs. Oh? What do you want? Please help me load Ratio Loaderbox's tweet about you.
Provoked. It literally is, dumbass. It is. We just, if you knew anything about Judaism, or if you actually had ever been around, at least Orthodox.
I was having a very long 30 seconds. I was looking at, like, that's the thing. They show me go, I recognize this name. And then looking it up and they go, wow, he's being anti-Semitic. I was looking up the data. What the fuck are you talking about? Oh my Lord. All right, chat. Here you go. Probably everybody's, here you go. Everybody liked this tweet. The 10-year minus 3-month yield curve just uninverted. Oh yeah. Yeah. Loaderbox is a complete fucking loser.
Oh no, they're trying to call me anti-Semitic, guys.
Oh no, are the genocide deniers trying to call me anti-Semitic? Wow, what a surprise. What a surprise. We love Jewish people here. What a fucking loser, dude. Before you go, I don't know if you cover that Israeli soldiers are fleeing countries due to war crimes investigations. We'll cover that tomorrow. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me today. We'll be back tomorrow. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. Hope you enjoy the content. Here's all my links. Much love to everybody. Happy January 6th. And we'll see you all soon. Stay safe out there. Solidarity forever, my friends. Peace.